This is the Patriots Catch-22 podcast with Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
I'm Evan Lazar. Evan Lazar. Hello, everybody.
Nailed it.
Joined as always by Alex Barth. That's a fit. That's a match. No risk it, no biscuit.
22.
Here is Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
The only coach who can get away with that technique. There's one coach that answers questions that way. There's one question.
Know it, love it. Oh, that was good. That was good. That made me feel good. That was a good. That was my favorite soundbite to come from the owners' meetings.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
Favorite soundbite.
Nothing the coach that coaches the team you cover said. Certainly.
There's Vrabel had a good presser. I'm
yeah,
not
he
saying,
talked about building a tough, physical football team.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he did.
Not only that.
No, but he talked. I'd rather hear about that than EPA.
I mean,
I'd rather hear about how you're going to win football games than, well, as long as the math lines up.
How you're going to win football games is by building a good passing game. That's the point that he was making.
By building a good football team.
Good passing game equals wins.
A good football team equals wins.
I don't understand. They're the same thing.
There's Evan, believe it or not, there's more to football than just throwing the ball. Yes.
There is for balance purposes, sure.
There's more to football than throwing the ball.
All right.
I promise you. Watch a football game sometime. You'll be surprised.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's where you're going. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Evan, watch a football game. That never happens. All right.
The UFL plays this week.
Hello, everybody. Evan Lazar, Alex Barth, Patriots Catch-22. 2 weeks, Alex. 2 weeks to go until the NFL draft. Well, 2 weeks in a day, but I'm going to call it 2 weeks. I'm going to round down and call it 2 weeks. Look, the hay is not quite in the barn for me personally, but it's getting there. We're getting to hay is in the barn status. Like, we got a few more, was it bales, right? Bales of hay to go.
Yeah.
But we're very, very close. And now is...
How many players would you say you're up to?
Probably about 130.
Yeah, okay. I'm probably in that range.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to 150 this year. Usually
Yeah.
I get to around between 125 and 150. But this year I'm trying to get to that 150 mark because they have those 2/5, and you kind of want to know a little bit more about early day 3 in a year like this. But we're getting to the point now where the intel is changing daily. It almost feels like, right? Last week it was a lock that the Cleveland Browns are going to take Abdul Carter at number 2. Now it's a lock that Travis Hunter is going to go to the Browns. It feels like we're in that part of the offseason, which I think is interesting because now is the time where the scouting staffs, the coaching staffs, the heads of department, if you will, now they have their final draft meetings. And really up until this point, the board hasn't been set yet. Truly.
No.
And I know people find that hard to believe, but the board outside of maybe Tennessee, who might know exactly who they're taking because they're taking somebody first overall, it takes a minute to set the board in terms of all these visits and workouts and all that kind of stuff. So we're in the next week or so, I would say, in set the board territory now for NFL teams. And when that happens, you often start to hear some trickling out of more information that might be more accurate. I think it was 2 drafts ago, or maybe it was last year's draft that Bill Belichick...
Last year on McAfee, I was going to bring this up. Last year on McAfee, Bill Belichick said the accurate information from teams doesn't really start leaking out until about 12 hours before the draft.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at it last year. Remember, it was J.J. McCarthy to Patriots. J.J. By the way, J.J. McCarthy's agent, hopefully got a raise after last year. But it was about 10 hours out last year that we started getting those reports that, hey, it's Drake May.
Yeah.
It's going to be Drake May.
Yeah.
So... because like you said, the scouts have been doing their thing. The coaches have been doing their thing. This is where they all come together. These next 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, we call this time of year silly season.
Yeah.
This is the silliest time of silly season because, and I love and hate this part of the draft process. This is the most exhausting part in a good way and a bad way. As we go on early, right, you have the Senior Bowl, the Shrine Bowl. You have the Combine, you have Pro Days, you have free agency. We're getting all this new information, and there's changing takes, and it's all evolving because there's new things you have to consider that you have to involve. At this point, I don't know when the deadline is for 30s. I think it's the end of this week, so there's still might.
It's next week.
It's next week?
Yeah.
But most teams have them done. So, like, there's still going to be some 30s trickling in. But outside of that, for the teams, the hay is in the barn.
Yeah.
Like, they're done. So we're not really going to get any, unless it gets confirmed who the Browns are going to take, which won't happen until 12 hours before the draft. We're not going to get externally any new information here in these next 2 weeks. So now it's just the same thoughts churning through your head over and over, but it's 2 weeks. We need stuff to talk about. And now's when the real ridiculous stuff starts to come out.
Yeah, 100%. And this is a part of the draft where I hate this part. Honestly, this is my least favorite part because you just start to hear a lot of silliness. You also start to have people that, and I'm guilty of this too, that are just so dug in on their take, and they're so take cornered to put certain players that now you're just at the point where it's almost argumentative because it's you just have your guys, I have my guys, and we're just not going to budge. We're not going to find a common ground.
It's the same arguments over and over because, again, there is no new information. But so you get some people who are so dug in. You also get some people who, want something new to talk about. So now we're just pulling these random. What if Ashton Genty goes too, Evan? Would the Browns take Ashton Genty second?
I haven't even heard that. I just hear
I haven't either, but I bet you in the next 2 weeks we're going to hear somebody bring up what if not necessarily as a report, but again, because we have this time to fill and there's nothing new, so we're going to create something new. What if Ashton Genty goes second?
Yeah, I've heard, for the Patriots, we've seen some mock drafts recently. Jalen Walker has picked up a little bit of steam. Obviously all the trade down scenarios and stuff like that have been popular. So you hear a lot of that kind of stuff. And we're going to get into some of the news for the Patriots with the draft, or the Patriots adjacent news at least as well, here in a second. And then we're also going to do My Guys starting today. So My Guys is a fun segment we like to do. If you're not familiar, basically these are just the guys that Alex and I independently will stand on the table for, right? Yeah. We're pounding the table for these guys. We're planting our flags. These are our guys. We're going to do offense today. So we'll go every position: quarterback, receiver, running back, tight end, offensive line. Actually, I did guard, and we were doing interior and tackles, right? With offensive line, or are we just doing offensive line? Doesn't matter.
We can split it up.
We'll get into all the My Guys for the offense. Next week we'll do defense, and the following week we'll just kind of do a general preview / wrap show on the pre-draft process, if you will. So that's the agenda for today. We'll obviously take all your calls and emails as well. It's at podcast. I always forget what it is now. Podcast at Patriots.com. And obviously the Patriots Catch-22 hotline, not the unfiltered hotline, because that's a different show. So 855-PATS-500 is the phone number. We see you guys lining up on the phones already. But hey, Patriots fans, if you want to see Toyota's best offers, including those not seen on TV, go to buyatoyota.com. It's Toyota's official website for deals for the official vehicle of the New England Patriots. Toyota, let's go places. And want to host a winning Easter brunch? Team up with Bob's Discount Furniture. Spruce up your space for guests in no time with Bob's latest selection of trendy accent furniture and wall decor, high-quality indoor and outdoor rugs, and space-saving storage, a.k.a. somewhere to hide those Easter eggs. So stop in and stock up for spring and beyond at Bob's Discount Furniture, the official furniture store of the New England Patriots. I'm probably going to regret saying this, but having two Jewish people read an Easter promo is kind of ironic. Anyways, the big thing I wanted to start with today is that there's some rumblings, and again, this is silly season. We start to get... a little bit tired, whatever, of all the draft talk. But I think Abdul Carter is starting to become a little bit of a hot button topic of, could Abdul Carter be the one that falls to 4? I think we've talked a lot about Travis Hunter falling to 4, but after his pro day and after some of the news that trickled out from Cleveland's side following Travis Hunter's pro day, I think their GM flat out said, can I draft both in terms of Shedeur and Travis Hunter? So there's obviously...
He can if he wants, come up to 4.
Yeah, there's obviously
an
infatuation with Travis Hunter across the league, which is not surprising. But with Abdul Carter specifically, if he's there at 4, I think there's an interesting discussion that comes of that. One, it's another defensive player on that side of the ball. But what I continue to say is that it is a player that is so far above the rest of the pack that you have to take talent where the talent is, right? And I would not sweat it one bit to sit at 4 and have Abdul Carter fall in their laps. But I do want to talk about some of the things with Abdul Carter that might be causing him to fall. But what are just your general impressions right now of all this chatter surrounding Abdul Carter?
So I don't know. Maybe I'm in the minority here because there's been a lot of reporting that the Browns were there for Travis Hunter. And I get they sent a big group. I understand that. And Travis Hunter's a great player. Is the owner really traveling for a wide receiver? Is the owner traveling to see a wide receiver?
Now, he did go to Penn State.
Okay.
So,
but just the whole party is reminiscent to me of what the Patriots sent to LSU and to UNC last year.
Yeah.
And this is what teams generally send for quarterbacks. So maybe that means that they're going to try to move up and get Sanders in the teens, move up from the second round and get Sanders in the teens. And they are going to take Hunter at 2 and they do want to pair them up. But I still think if Sanders goes 2, this is the part I feel stronger about in my conviction. I'm not necessarily 100% sold on the Browns doing anything right now. I do feel like if it is Sanders at 2, which is admittedly a big if it is Sanders at 2, Travis Hunter is going to go 3.
Yeah.
I do think that's the path to it happening.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like that's where I'm at trying to think about this realistically. If the draft is Ward, Sanders, Hunter, then I think that's probably now the most realistic way this goes, that one of those two guys falls to the Patriots, Hunter or Carter falls to the Patriots, is if the draft goes Ward, Sanders, 1 and 2. I don't think if the draft goes Ward, Hunter, that the Giants are going to pass over Abdul Carter. So the Giants I would believe would draft Carter, so he's not on the board for you anyways. The one thing that I wanted to talk about, and I always want to be careful with this kind of stuff, obviously, but it's not my reporting. It's just what's out there about Abdul Carter. Bob McGinn does a great job every single year of really digging up the true feelings of the NFL on each prospect.
He is the draft boogeyman. You don't want to see Bob McGinn writing about a player that you like.
Yeah, so he comes out every single year, position by position, and he's got scouts on the record anonymously talking about these players. And
he was the one, for reference, last year. Remember, a week before the draft, and we were big A.D. Mitchell guys.
Yeah.
That put out there that A.D. Mitchell was going to fall because teams didn't like the way he managed his diet.
Yeah.
He had diabetes, right? Is that what it was? So A.D. Mitchell then falls on draft night way beyond where anybody thought. I don't think it was ever confirmed that that's why, but you tie those two together, it's okay, here's a guy a week before, 2 weeks before, that said he was going to have the significant fall, and then he had a significant fall.
Yeah, so I don't think we're quite, with the things that McGinn is reporting or is sourcing, I don't think we're quite in Jalen Carter territory where there was an actual legal incident.
Well, that wasn't a report. That just happened.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. In terms of, I don't think we're in that territory because I know he had the incident a year ago with the tow truck driver and all that. He's been cleared of any charges of that in that case, unless there's more cases that we don't know about that weren't, risen to the legal level. Where he's getting charged with anything. I guess maybe that could happen. But my point being, Jalen Carter had it was speeding, right? Or reckless driving.
It was street
drag
racing or something like that.
That happened the spring of the draft, right? That happened that year. So Jalen Carter ended up falling 10 to Philadelphia, obviously, and that looks like a home run pick for them. But here's what McGinn wrote, just kind of, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but here's an excerpt from McGinn on Abdul Carter. That scout was one of 4 personnel people to express reservations about Carter's makeup. He's not a great worker, said one, plays his butt off on Saturday, but he's not a great guy during the week because he's so gifted. So I think the general gist of what McGinn wrote from all these different scouts about Carter is he's a little high maintenance, right? He's kind of a diva. He's a little high maintenance. And he's one of those guys that Monday through Saturday might not give it his all, but Sunday he obviously, when you turn on the tape, you can see what he can do on Sundays or Saturdays, in college football. So I think the number one thing to me with all of this, I always take this type of stuff with a grain of salt. You never know if anybody has a motive or an axe to grind or whatever with a certain player. I try not to look too much into any of that kind of stuff and just stick to the football and stick to the tape. But when Vrabel's sitting here and Elliot Wolf and Ryan Cowden, and we can see it with their actions, that they have been big culture evaluators.
Right.
Effort and finish on the football field, getting the right kind of football players, getting the culture guys in this locker room, getting former captains, guys that are going to circle the wagons for them with guys like Harold Landry. They're big on culture. They're big on that word. And if Carter is there, again, it's a talent grab. It's a situation where you can't hesitate, in my opinion, but it is a test. It's a little bit of a test of how much are they willing to bend in that department? Because to me, the reason why Travis Hunter is getting some number 2 buzz now over Abdul Carter is that Travis Hunter is a perfect off and on the field football player. He eats, breathes football. He always says, I have 8 hours to sleep and 16 hours to work on football. And that's the type of guy that he is. He's a worker. He's very prepared. He does a lot of film study. His character is very well thought of.
All he does is study football and play video games. That's really it.
Yeah.
He talked about this on College Game Day last year, where he was like, I'm in the film room, I'm at practice, I'm in the workroom, and they're like, you must do something else. He's a streamer. That's what a lot of these kids do. That's what he does. But usually, he plays CFB 25. It's still a football game. So it is really underrated. I would say the most underrated part about his game right now, just the general consensus, what I read about him, is how much of a student of the game he truly is.
Yeah, 100%. And if Abdul Carter isn't that, and we're looking at the two of these players, and I think most people would agree, they're either 1-2 or 2-1, and they're both kind of equally graded in that blue chip territory. These types of things, when you're making a pick that high, can certainly sway you towards one player versus another. Do you think that Vrabel would concede on the culture stuff because Carter is just so overwhelmingly talented?
Well, this is kind of I don't want to do it. It's a catch-22. On one hand, he doesn't necessarily fit the culture that you're looking for, and that might be a red flag.
Yeah.
On the other hand, isn't this part of why you build that strong culture? Because if there is a guy that's so monumentally talented, and Bill did this again and again and again, if there is a guy that's so monumentally talented, but maybe isn't exactly the person you want him to be, the idea is if you can get him in a room that's 95% guys that are all pulling in the same direction, you hope he's going to buy into that the culture will support him and uplift him. So now it's one thing to do that 10 years in. It's another thing to do it year one. Right? If we were having this conversation 10 years into the Vrabel tenure, I'd say, and things go the way we think they're going to go, or he thinks they're going to go, absolutely, right? You bring them in, and okay, the culture is there, the program is instilled, and it's just going to, what is it, high tides lift all boats or whatever, it's going to help them out. Year one, it's a little more of a risk, but the other argument is this is why you build a strong culture. So when a guy like Abdul Carter is available with his talent, even if he's maybe isn't as motivated as you want him to be, he's going to have no choice but to change the way he operates when he gets in this building, because that's just how things are done in this building.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the other conversation, I don't want to spend too much time on the character stuff because I don't know Abdul Carter. It's not my reporting. I don't know the guy.
Look, it's tricky.
When you start to talk about why could he be falling, and that's sort of a conversation that's going around right now, this is the only reason why. It's obviously not the tape, right? It's obviously not the football player, because we can all see how talented he is, but it might be some of this other stuff. I don't think it's the foot. I think that's something that is going to...
Oh, no, he can't do half a mini camp. We got to drive somebody else. Come on, please.
No, I don't think it's that. This, to me, is 100%. If there's anything going on, it might be character.
I hate doing this stuff, but it also is...
It's important context.
Because we're projecting off the tape, right?
Yeah.
But the one piece of information that we don't have, we're not in the meeting rooms with these guys.
Yeah.
And you hear coaches talk here and there, but everybody has an agenda, right? We don't have necessarily the full personality, mental makeup picture that the teams do. So this happens every year. There's one or two guys I really like that fall, And it's, well, why did they fall if you thought they were so good? This happened with DeJuan Jones a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to be an early second-round pick. He went, mid-fourth?
Early fourth, yeah.
Sometimes guys fall a little bit, and it's like, all right, he fell a little bit. Maybe I was wrong. There's a certain point where a guy falls to a level where it's like, clearly somebody knows something I don't know, and at this point I'll go with the somebody. Nolan Smith. We thought Nolan Smith was a clear-cut first-round pick, and we were shocked when he fell like beyond the top 20. What do you end up going? Third round, right?
You mean Nakobe Dean?
Nakobe Dean, thank you.
Yeah.
Nakobe Dean goes like very late in the draft, and then it comes out
I think.
He had a shoulder injury that nobody knew about. And it's like, if I had known that, I would have adjusted, but it wasn't out there. So I hate talking about this stuff, but it's the part of the picture that we don't have. So when we get these little nuggets of it, I do think it's worth addressing. And it goes the other way, too. It's not just to beat on guys like we've talked about, but the good things usually, those are put out there because they're good and they want you to know. When we hear about like the leadership of certain players or things like that, how they are as a teammate, like the good stuff's going to be put out there. So we have a little bit more of that to talk about.
Whether you think it's overblown or not, with some of this stuff that comes out in these, McGinn-style articles, Dane Brugler released The Beast today. Usually Dane's a little bit more timid with some of this stuff, but if there is honest concerns about a player's mental makeup, Javon Baker, I remember last year, some of the stuff about his maturity and all that kind of stuff came in The Beast, like that he'll come out and say it too, right? And it's important because, like you said, we're on the outside looking in to this puzzle. We don't have all the information at hand, and when we get our takes out, it's about the tape, it's about the film, it's about the player, and we have to realize that this other stuff is just as important to teams as the football. Yeah,
and the only reason we don't talk about it is because we don't have it.
Right.
And sometimes it ends up being BS.
Yeah.
2 years ago, teams were worried Christian Gonzalez was soft.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't make it. And he fell to 14, and then he fell to 17. Emmanuel Forbes went over him.
Keon White, too.
Keon White was another one. So sometimes it ends up being BS.
Yeah.
At the end. But it impact. We're talking about, when we're talking about draft stock, it matters. And then, I said it about Gonzalez at the time. All right, it impacted his draft stock. I understand that. I didn't think it was going to impact him as a player. Yeah. Those are two different conversations. Teams screw the draft up all the time. You have to consider that.
So the other thing, as we segue into the next news item I wanted to bring up, I have zero hesitations about Abdul Carter playing defense, like not being like a tackle or a receiver, an offensive player. I think that bad teams stay bad by passing on better players for needs. Right. If you have a chance to get Abdul Carter now, you might look at me and say, you think Mason Graham's a better prospect than Will Campbell, or you think Jalen Walker's a better. Those guys to me are in the same cluster. They're in the same stack. So need and positional value might be a little bit more heavily weighted when you're within a tier of players. Yeah. Abdul Carter is in his own tier.
Different tier, right.
So when we're talking about Abdul Carter over Will Campbell or Abdul Carter over Tet McMillan or Tyler Warren or whatever the case may be,
different
Genty,
level of prospect.
We're talking about a different level of prospect.
Genty is in that tier with Carter and Hunter. To me, he's just the running back thing. But to case in point, for the Giants, if it goes quarterback, they get to do the whole positional value and fit thing with Carter and Hunter. Yeah. And that's why I think they would take Travis Hunter. Even though Carter might be a little better of a prospect, the one thing they kind of have is edge.
Yeah.
So they get to do that. If you're the Patriots and it's Abdul Carter or the field, you don't get to do that. Or Travis Hunter in the field, you don't really get to do that because they're such different levels of player.
And I like what the Patriots have done on the defensive line. Milton Williams is obviously a great player, a good signing. Harold Landry's a solid signing. That's going to be a NFL caliber starter. That's going to be plug and play in a defense he's familiar with. But they don't have a sack artist. Like they don't have a finisher. To me, Abdul Carter completes the defense. That's a cherry on top of the sundae.
We've talked so much about the coverage dictating wide receiver.
Yeah.
The blocking dictating pass rusher they don't have. The Matthew Judon they don't have.
Right, the Judon, pure one-on-one winner on the outside that's going to have double-digit sacks.
Right.
I don't know if they have that guy.
Who's the guy that's going to force offenses to do things differently?
Yeah.
And, boy, you drop Carter into this thing, Carter, Milton Williams, Christian Barmore is healthy, which by the way is great to see him in the building this week.
Yep, Keon White.
For workouts. Well, I was just going to say at all three levels, right? You talk about cornerstone players. Like Keon White, we'll see he can get there. He's not there yet. Milton Williams, Christian Barmore, Abdul Carter, Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah. That's
a defensive core.
Yeah.
That is a true core that you can build around, and like those guys are going to give you a really solid floor.
When I look at the Patriots, and then I promise we'll move on because I know I spent a lot of time on this, but when I look at the Patriots in terms of what their pillars of this team moving forward, Drake May, Christian Gonzalez, and potentially Abdul Carter, doesn't that feel a little bit like Stroud, Stingley, and Will Anderson in Houston?
Yeah, a little bit.
Right, it's very similar. Obviously, Drake May hasn't risen quite yet to the C.J. Stroud level, I wouldn't say. Stingley and Gonzalez, both all-pro corners. I think Will Anderson and Abdul Carter are adjacent in terms of talent and just ceiling as prospects coming out of college. The Texans just did this, right? The Texans just kind of set themselves up for the next at least 5 years of being a playoff contending team.
Well, before they tore their offensive line apart, but yes.
Yeah. Now, the difference is, and this is where we get into defense and some of the guys I'm going to mention with some of these recent visits that have been reported, the little bit of difference is that the Texans hit on day 2 picks, right?
Yeah.
So that they hit on day 2 picks specifically on offense. I know he's been, hurt at times, but, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, players like that. Like, you need to, if you're going to draft best available, which is what I think Houston pretty much did with Stingley and Will Anderson.
Well, they moved up to get Anderson, so it's a little more than that.
Yeah. But he was the best player available, and they moved up and got him. When you draft those types of players on one side of the football, you got to hit in rounds 2 through 7 on some of the other positions that are going to be important to your offense. Nico Collins is like a mid-round draft pick that turns into one of the best receivers in football. That's the type of thing you have to do. So along those same lines, the Patriots reportedly, again, over the last week or so, have hosted Mykel Williams and Shamar Stewart on 30 visits. Now, my instant reaction to that was, oh, well, they're stacking a trade down, right? Like if a trade down is their best option at 4, and I'm not saying that they want to trade down or they have a trade down in place. I'm just saying you have to come up with all the contingencies and be prepared for every single possible contingency that could come your way. So let's say they get to draft night, Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter go in the top 3. They're sitting at 4. The New Orleans Saints call.
Right.
And they want Shedeur Sanders, so they're trading up for Shedeur Sanders. You go back to 9. What's your stack at 9, right? Like, who are the guys that you would be comfortable with taking at 9? And Mykel Williams and Shamar Stewart, to me, would fit into that stack, that range of the draft. Now, I'm definitely Mykel over Shamar Stewart.
Absolutely.
I think Mykel Williams is a much better football player than Shamar Stewart.
Mykel Williams. I said Mekhi, like the safety.
I said
Thinking Mekhi Starks.
I don't know. Mykel Williams.
Yeah.
He's a better football player to me than Stewart. Stewart's a better athlete. Stewart's a one-of-one athlete. Absolutely rare tools and athleticism. But I didn't love what I saw on tape from Stewart. I thought he was stiff. Doesn't have a ton of bend off the edge. Not going to win with much finesse. I really actually thought watching him that Will Campbell, kind of ate his lunch. Like, he really didn't give Will Campbell very many problems at all. Guys like Kyle Kennard, his teammate Nick Scorton, like some more twitched up guys that can, win with more speed and win with more finesse. Like, those guys tended to give Will Campbell some problems. But to me right now, Shamar Stewart's a ball of clay. He's a risk, I think, for the Patriots. To your point earlier, if we were 2, 3, 4 years into this thing and they had somehow got it into the, a top 10 pick or a late top 10 pick, and they wanted to give Rabel and Terrell Williams this ball of clay, raw, toolsy, athletic pass rusher, have at it. But I think the Patriots need to get on base with this draft pick as much as anything. They need to hit one right down the fairway. Mykel Williams, I think, does that a little bit more college production, a little bit more translatable, I think, to a 4.3. He's a 4.3 base end. Like, that's what he is. Great length, above average length in terms of arm length and also stride length as well, I think is a good strength of his. Really good film against Kelvin Banks Jr. A trade down to 9-ish and drafting Michael Williams or Jalen Walker. I know is getting some buzz as well.
Is he getting a 9? I feel like that guy screams Carolina Panther to me at 8.
Yeah, either one of those guys, though, I'd be okay with in that scenario. But what are your thoughts on them meeting with those guys? Because I think Williams and Stewart are kind of in the no man's land for them. Like, it doesn't really feel like they're going to be in a position to draft those guys.
Well, so Stewart, I've seen some mocks that put him down into the 20s.
Yeah.
Now, some of that is Mike Green going higher than expected. With that's another guy that has some non-football concerns.
Yeah.
Some of those mocks have some other edge guys going earlier, but no, they want to be ready. If a trade down comes, you can't get to 9 and be like, shoot, we don't know anything about any of these guys, right? So you want to be prepared in that situation. It also might be something we've heard of this. Both those guys played in the SEC, right?
Yeah.
Hey, what'd you think of Will Campbell?
Yeah.
What was it like facing him? Kelvin Banks, what was that like going up against him? Like, that's the best. That can be some of the best intel you get. Literally talking to the guys who are lined up on the other side. So, and it doesn't have to be one or the other. It could be both. Hey, we want to know about a trade back, and also we're kind of interested in what this guy has to say about some of the tackles. So, I don't hate it. They're doing their due diligence. I see people freak out sometimes. They're burning 30 visits. 30 is a lot of visits, especially when you consider that. Well, they don't have as much help with the local pro days. It's like there's no reason for the Cowboys to ever have a 30.
Yeah,
because you can host players who are either, I think it's within 90 miles of your team facility.
There's some like outside the lines with that in terms of like the lines. I mean, literally like drawing the mileage lines. Like UConn is a local visit for the Patriots.
Right.
I don't know if it exactly fits into the mileage, but they stretch it because they know there isn't a ton of college football here.
The Cowboys have the university. They have all those schools in Dallas, plus all the kids that are from that area that are local.
TCU, Baylor.
Yeah. Some of the Florida teams too. The Dolphins, the Jags. They have a nice advantage there. But that's a side rant. I think it's just due diligence.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And it's also, it's a smoke screen too. Like, if they only met with Will Campbell, do they meet with Membu? I don't think so.
I don't.
For 30?
I'm sure they have, but I don't know if
for
they
30.
did it
but like,
30.
If you have Will Campbell visit and that's it, you kind of lose a lot of leverage.
Yeah.
If you're trying to make a trade or what have you. So, get to know the top guys on the board.
I think it's interesting. We hear these 30 visits, and you mentioned them knowing the opponents that they've gone up against. Calvin Banks Jr. is a good one. I don't know if Williams ever faced Campbell. Maybe 2 years ago. They didn't play Georgia last year. I know that. But anyways, maybe he has along the line. But I've heard that before, that guys will get hosted for visits, and they'll spend the entire visit talking about their teammate or talking about a guy they went up against. Usually it's a teammate. Like, usually you bring in, like, a quarterback's receiver or a quarter, vice versa. And, like, you kind of use them to get to know the other player. But there's times where, like, they'll say, they didn't ask me any questions about me. They're asking me all questions about, Shador. Or they're asking me all questions about Travis Hunter. Like, it's something totally different. But I looked at that at face value and said, if they orchestrate a trade down here, then those two guys, and I think in general, just having interest in edge in general makes a lot of sense. And I know some people look at it and want other positions and want them to fill other needs early in the draft, but it's a great edge class. And I would say that the Patriots still could use a young, developing player there. Harold Landry, I think, is good for now. He's going to be a good starter for them in the short term. But really opposite of Landry, is it Keon White? Is he an outside guy? Is he really more just a rotational inside guy? Chazon, I think, is really a situational pass rusher. I don't think he's a starting end for them. So drafting somebody at that position, I again, like, going back to the Abdul Carter thing, I don't think it's crazy. Like, I don't at all.
I'm with you, but I think in this draft, like, they don't need to take that guy in the first round and get that guy. There's some really good day 2 edge guys.
All right, let's get into my guys,
right.
And then we'll take the calls and the emails for the last hour or so here. Let's start with quarterback, because we can kind of probably go pretty quickly with this one.
Skip the first round.
Yeah, first round guys are out.
Let me add real quick, just aside from the Patriots, who ends up being QB3 and where does he go?
Jackson Dart.
Yep.
mid to late first, like 20s.
So when I did my mock draft, I had it as Jackson Dart. I had the Giants moving up to I think 26 to take him. I had them taking Hunter,
Right.
and then Jackson Dart.
Makes the most sense.
Jalen Milroe accepted that invite to the draft.
So
I'm not sleeping on Jalen Milroe
list.
surprising some people.
I think he's
you have him
gonna
on your list for the Patriots? Or?
No.
Okay.
I just quarterback.
Your
I
guys?
didn't.
Okay.
I got to be honest. I just didn't really care too much about quarterback. So,
Okay.
I liked what I saw out of Jalen Milroe, though. And, most of these guys I just watched because I was watching other guys, and obviously they're the quarterback, so you see them. I just look at Jalen Milroe. He's such a great athlete, and he's got some zip on the ball. Like, he's not a bad thrower either. That I think you can build an offense with Jalen Milroe. Like, it's going to have to be specific to Jalen Milroe. It's going to have to be, similar to what the Eagles do with Hurts, and stuff like that. Even, the Commanders with Jaden Daniels. It's going to have to be specific to the player, and it's going to have to be different than, you're not going to just plug him into a pro-style NFL offense that goes under center and does what NFL pocket quarterbacks do and expect it to work. But if you're crafty enough, if you're creative enough as an offensive mind, I think that there's so much raw talent there and raw ability, especially with his athleticism and his mobility, that I'd be willing to take a bet on Jalen Hurts in the second round.
So I'll give you a couple
me.
fits for Jalen Milroe for me.
Yeah.
One is the Saints. If they
Kellen
move
Moore.
up in the late first, right? Kellen Moore just did that with Jalen Hurts. The other one is the Browns, because when Jalen Milroe had that breakout year at Alabama in 2023, who was his offensive coordinator?
It wasn't Bill O'Brien?
Nope.
Who was it?
23?
Oh, it was
Tommy Rees.
Tommy Rees,
Who's now the OC in Cleveland.
Yeah.
I think Jalen Milroe or Will Howard should be the QB3 in this draft, because one has immense ceiling, one has a very solid floor. Jackson Dart, to me, is splitting the difference. I have no interest in splitting the difference on day two. Give me an extreme. Which extreme, we could debate that, and that's probably team to team. I think it should be Milroe. I really like Will Howard. I do.
I have Will Howard on my list, too, as day two, obviously, as well. I don't know where Milroe is going to fall in exactly, but I watched Gruden's doing like the QB school stuff again. He's great on the whiteboard. A smart kid, conceptually understands the game really well. I thought he throws a great ball. Like
he does.
He's a pocket passer. He's big, 6'5", 230-pound pocket passer. Throws a really good ball. Again, understands conceptually what the offense is trying to achieve, what he's reading, what he's seeing out there from the defense. I mean, he's probably not the most creative off-script guy or most mobile guy. He doesn't really have that in him.
He can move around a little bit.
But I think that he's, like you said, maybe, I don't know if, high floor, but like, I just think that you run an offense with him, right? Like he can really come in and step in and run an offense. Now he's obviously going to have the concerns, if you will, similar to like Mac Jones at Alabama. Like, was it just, Jamari Smith and all these different people, around him?
He was pretty good at Kansas State.
Yeah.
Where he didn't have, there's some guys on that team, but not the same level of talent.
Yeah. So I get that concern. You know, he's got a great offensive line. He's got Chip Kelly calling plays. He's got all world wide receivers all over the place at Ohio State. But I just like the skill set, and I think he's a guy that will make it work in the NFL. Probably won't be a ceiling quarterback. He's probably never going to be like a top 5 quarterback in the league. But I think he could be a starter in the NFL.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Should we do like Patriots guys now?
Well, I was just I don't think the Patriots have any interest in any of these quarterbacks.
Well, they're going to add a quarterback because Josh McDaniels usually wants 4 in camp.
Yeah.
So they're going to get their Trace McSorley, veteran camp arm.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if they draft another guy to have him around emergency third quarterback. Obviously, he's not going to have the same physical tools as a guy like Joe Milton, so there's less concern there. There's 2 guys I look at. One, and I know you hate this, and I've kind of dumped on this guy during the process, but for where the situation is now, it makes sense, and that's Brady Cook.
I knew you were going to
Brady
say that.
Cook was terrible in 2024.
Yeah.
He was not good.
That's why Luther Burden's not going to go in the first round.
Brady Cook in 2023 was a baller. Brady Cook was awesome in 2023.
Baller's a stretch.
He was really good.
He was better.
He was one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC in 2023.
He was better.
Teams are going to look at it and say, what happened in 2024? If Elliott Wolf wants to repeat what he did with Joe Milton, okay, we're going to find a guy with some tools, with some sneaky upside, see if we can flip him. Brady Cook's got some mobility. He's got a big arm. It's not in the same stratosphere as Joe Milton, but nobody is, right?
Yep.
You want to try to bet on somebody that maybe can have a couple good preseason games you can flip. Brady Cook has flashed more than any of those guys late on day 3 or the UDFAs are going to flash. The other one is Max Brosmer from Minnesota, very experienced quarterback, a local guy, played at UNH for a few years, was dominant at UNH, transferred to Minnesota last year and held his own. He looked like a solid, he wasn't unbelievable, but again, if you're just looking for somebody to be that emergency third quarterback on game days that maybe you can flip in a year or two, Brosmer's a little interesting to me.
All right, well, that's your quarterbacks.
You don't have anybody
nope.
if they're going to go late in the draft? You must have one. Come on.
No.
You've watched all these wide receivers.
I have no appeal for any of them. I think this quarterback class stinks, and I have no appeal for any of them.
Not Taylor Elgersma?
No, like maybe like, you know, I could get talked into like a Curtis Roker or a Brady Cook like as like a 7th round UDFA.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not taking these guys
like Curtis
inside
Rourke,
the top 200.
I think to me, it kind of reminded me a little bit of like Aiden O'Connell. Like he's just like going to be like an NFL backup.
Well, he played all of last year on a torn ACL.
Yeah, so if you're looking for somebody that is totally non-threatening and is going to just fit into a backup role,
which is what I'm saying,
then Curtis Rourke, I think, makes the most sense.
Curtis Rourke, Brady Cook. Vrabel's going to like Curtis Rourke, excuse me, because he has the intangibles. Let me give you one more quarterback take.
I think Brady Cook, not that I don't want to do the whole Joe Milton thing again, but I think Brady Cook...
No, he's not on that level.
Brady Cook, though, is more of like the tools upside pick here. Curtis Rourke, to me, is if you want to draft Chase Daniel, like if you want to draft a career backup who could back up Drake May for the next 5 years, like this is
Curtis Rourke. That's Curtis Rourke and Brosmer to me. Brady Cook's a little more if they want to see if they can flip another quarterback.
Yeah.
One more quick quarterback take, because I've seen people bring up Garrett Green from West Virginia and Tommy Mellott from Montana State.
Yeah.
And say, hey, you can bring these guys in. They can be the third quarterback, and maybe they can play receiver. Garrett Green's like 5'11". Tommy Mellett's a smaller guy. He was an option quarterback at Montana State.
Edelman again.
Well, so here's what I'd say. I don't think either of those guys are going to be Julian Edelman because Julian Edelman's one in a million.
Julian Edelman again.
But if you want to try it, and they're both, I don't think either one's going to get drafted. If you want to try it as UDFA, I'm not opposed to it. Fine. But if you're doing that for them to play wide receiver and them to learn how to play wide receiver. You can't do Malik Cunningham again, where, all right, we're going to play him a little bit at quarterback, we're going to play him a little bit. No, if you want to develop those guys as a wide receiver, you develop them as a wide receiver. They're not playing quarterback. They're not going to wear a non-contact jersey. They're not going to be the emergency third quarterback on game day. If you're adding those guys, you're adding them as receivers.
Okay, that's enough quarterbacks.
That's there's the last point I want to get out.
Let's get to running backs. So we did day 1, day 2, day 3. That's how we kind of split this up with each position. This is a my guy and a take all in one.
Oh, boy.
Okay, you ready for this?
Yeah.
So my day 1 running back is Travion Henderson. Because I think Travion Henderson might go in the first round.
Okay.
Because 2 reasons.
Is this for the Patriots or in general?
Just in general.
Okay.
But I also love him for the Patriots. It probably doesn't make sense for them to draft him just where he's going to go. You know, they at best are going to get him at 38, right? So, like, you know, I think he's going to be long gone by the time you wrap back around into the 3rd round. But Travion Henderson, to me, for 2 reasons, I think that he might get drafted in the late 1st round. One, he is just a fluid, explosive, big play machine, right?
Yeah.
You know, he's got all of the tools in the world to be just breaking off big play after big play in the run and in the pass game. You know, screens, routes out of the backfield, like he can do all of that. This is, you know, coupled with the fact that it's a copycat league.
Yeah.
The Lions just did this with Jahmyr Gibbs. And I look at Travion Henderson. I don't think he's quite as fast as Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, I think Jahmyr Gibbs had a little bit more juice than Henderson, but Henderson's close. And I think that the best comp for him is probably more like Breece Hall than it is Jahmyr Gibbs. But I think that he's got some shades of Jahmyr Gibbs in his game. And if you're one of these teams, copycat league, I would not be surprised if somebody grabs Travion Henderson thinking that he's the next Jahmyr Gibbs. And also, just quickly, Jahmyr Gibbs got overdrafted.
Yeah.
Relative to consensus. He got drafted a lot higher than people expected. I think that could also be happening here with Travion Henderson.
3 first-round running backs from Evan. I love it.
Yeah.
So I did this more with the Patriots in mind. First-round guy, Omarion Hampton. You want to make your young quarterback happy. We've talked a lot about trading up from 38 for a tackle or a receiver or whatever. If he falls, 22, 23, 24, move up, get him in addition to, a tackle or whoever at the top of the first round. And that would be my first round guy. I don't think Henderson's going to go that high, so I guess he's my first round guy too. Genty just feels Gentie's not the kind of guy that can be a my guy because everybody knows how good Ashton Gentie is.
I wouldn't be surprised, and this is going to blow you away. This is just like a bold prediction.
Yeah.
Right? This isn't an actual take. It's just kind of a bold prediction. I love Omarion Hampton. I've loved him since I saw him, last year. But he is more of like a linear runner. He's a little bit tighter hipped. He doesn't quite have the game-breaking speed that Travion Henderson does. Like, I just wouldn't be shocked if Travion Henderson goes a lot earlier than people are expecting because somebody wants a speed back in particular, right? Not, a workhorse. Like the appeal of Omarion Hampton is the volume that he's going to be able to take on. If you're looking for somebody that's going to be more of a game changer in terms of play speed and big playability, then that's more like Travion Henderson. All right. Day 2 running backs. I think you would know this from me. I love Dylan Sampson from Tennessee. I really think that he's the best day 2 running back in the range for the Patriots, maybe in the with their first 3rd round pick if they get lucky and he makes it that far. I just think he's a really efficient runner, but he also has plenty of creativity and plenty of speed to break off big plays. There are some concern there with the wonky offense at Tennessee and the light boxes and all that kind of stuff, but he graded out really well against all different types of boxes. And I think the one thing about Tennessee's offense is they underutilize pass-catching running backs. They don't throw to the running back a ton. I think in the NFL, Dylan Sampson's going to be an even better pass catcher than he was in college just because teams will use him in that vein. He's probably at his best in like a David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs style platoon, right? Where he's got like a thunder and lightning thing going on with somebody. And that's from Andre Stevenson for the Patriots.
Yeah.
So if they're going to go round 3 running back and they want to find a complement to Ramondre, I feel like Dylan Sampson's the best of both worlds there.
So my guy on day 2, I think people can guess this, is Quinshon Judkins. I just think I love the way he runs. He's old school, man. For the Patriots specifically, though, it has to be Sampson.
Yeah.
I think you put him with Ramondre Stevenson. That's just such a dynamic backfield. You're getting a little bit of everything with those two. I think he can probably play that pass catching back role and then do a little bit more on top of that. For me, it's Sampson at 69 makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah. So day 3, I don't know. There's
so many options.
There's going to be a run of running backs at somewhere in the late 3rd, early 4th round. Yeah. So that's the cutoff for day 2, day 3. So I don't know how specific you want to get with that. If RJ Harvey's there on day 3, though, like that's my guy. Okay. Like I think RJ Harvey reminds me a ton of Dion Lewis, right? Just a low center of gravity, great jump cut ability, really elusive. 32 runs of over 15 yards last year, explosive guy. I think he's going to be able to do that in the passing game as well. Smaller, like not a volume back necessarily, but I think he's someone that really has a lot of explosiveness and can still run between the tackles. If you want to go a little bit later because you feel like Harvey might be 3rd round pick and not get into the 4th round, Brashard Smith from SMU is really appealing. Converted back. Yeah, converted wide receiver, goes to SMU, turns into a running back, ran a 4.39, but still has all of the wide receiver skill, ball skills, route running ability, can run routes from the slot. How about, I see a little bit of Jet McKinnon. Nyheim Hines, like another one that I kind of thought of a little bit of him as well.
I mean, like, obviously not when he was here, but like prime time Montgomery.
Yeah, I could see that too.
Another converted receiver.
Yeah, I don't know if he's quite as bouncy as Jet McKinnon. Like McKinnon's like a jitterbug. I don't know if he quite has that. He's more straight line. Yeah, so that's why I kind of thought of Nyheim Hines.
So I'm just gonna, because there's so many running backs, I'm just gonna use this opportunity to ask why more people are not talking about Kyle Monangai. Yeah. I feel like it's Isaiah Pacheco all over again.
Yeah.
Like, come on. He runs mean. He runs angry. He's faster than people think. He can handle himself in the passing game. I really like Kyle Monangai, but my guy for the Patriots, I got to go with LaQuint Allen from Syracuse. Or Woody Marks. Like LaQuint Allen, Woody Marks, Brashard Smith. Give me one of those 3 guys to play the James White role. I will be very happy. If they get one of those 3 guys and he catches 60 balls in a season, awesome. Like, that's what I want from them at the... And then they had a bowling ball back later, great, like a Phil Maffa, but just give me one of those pass-catching guys.
It's interesting because, we're doing our big boards. Yeah. Deuce and I do dueling big boards. And when I started to do the running backs, I don't worry, I put a lot of running backs on there. I knew they're going to draft a running back. We all know it. I put a lot of running backs on there. And I just can't get Mr. Kraft out of my head. Speed back, right? Not Damian Martinez, right? We're not going...
Damian Martinez would be fun.
We're not going power between the tackles here. I want...
Why not both? You don't think? I think there's a real chance they draft 2 running backs. They get one
but
of these bigger bully backs high.
Like in the third, fourth, like a pure strong Kevin Harris redux, but better.
Yeah, you get because the pass catching backs are all later, unless they want Sampson.
Yeah,
the pass catching backs are all projected to go later.
Yeah, I mean,
so you
like
get a Damian Martinez or an Ollie Gordon at 106, or even maybe at 77. Or even Caleb Johnson if he falls right at 77. It's a fall, but somebody's going to fall.
Caleb Johnson's a little bit more of a zone back, but I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
And then you get that passing down back later, and now you have, if McDaniels is going to go back to splitting them, Stevenson, rookie 1 is your early down, Gibson, rookie 2 is your passing down, and you're set. Like I think that's, if it were up to McDaniels, not if it were up to McDaniels, but like all other things aside, if McDaniels could set the running back room up like that, he'd be very happy. Now, there's other things you have to do that may prevent you from doing that, but I think that's what McDaniels would like the running back room to look like.
All right, wide receiver. Day 1, day 2, day 3 again at wide receiver. I'm just going to take this opportunity once again to say Travis Hunter is a wide receiver. Like that's my.
I think that's clear.
That's my day 1 guy. Travis Hunter, wide receiver. I think one of the big things that has irked me the most this draft season is hearing that Travis Hunter is a raw route runner. Like, this is just drive me up a wall.
Show me a college receiver that isn't.
But it's different buckets, right? Like, there's wide receivers that win as technicians, and there's wide receivers that win because they're built different. Like, Travis Hunter is in the built different category. You know, I think a lot of the things that you hear about him and read about him as a wide receiver, you know, they remind me a lot of like Malik Neighbors, Odell Beckham Jr., like guys like that when they were coming out. That no, if you wanted to put teach tape up of how to run a dig, like they might not be the ones that you would put up on the film. Like maybe you'd go up and get like a Lad McConkey, right, to run a route and show a 6th grader how to run an out, right? Like that might not be your guy, but if you want guys that have unreal play speed, great ball skills, great ability to change directions and suddenness, gear changes, which I think is a really underrated skill for wide receivers, or guys that can tempo routes and have different gears that they can get to, because that can really make corners uncomfortable. Travis Hunter does all of those different things as a wide receiver, so I'm just excited that take is becoming more popular and it becoming a lot more of a head of steam, especially after his pro day when he only ran routes and didn't do any cornerback drills. So one last time in my guys, Travis Hunter is a wide receiver at the next level.
So Travis is like Genty, like Travis Hunter is Travis Hunter. He's not like a my guy because everybody likes Travis Hunter. So I'll go talk about somebody you're going to put the teach tape on.
Yeah.
I'll go Matthew Golden. I'm going to keep pounding the table for him. I understand the production is not there compared to your typical first-round wide receiver. This is not your typical draft, and I just think he showed up big in the biggest games, and I value that.
Yeah, he's a great route runner, and he might be in the donut, is what Deuce and I have been calling it, like right in between picks, right, 4 and 38. But if you had to come up with the wide receiver for Josh McDaniels, like Matthew Golden is kind of that kind of guy because he's a really good route runner and he's a smart route runner. He's very technically sound, but he still has a ceiling to him because of the speed and the ball skills. So I like Matthew. Everybody likes.
I think he's
Matthew
also
Golden,
very competitive. Like I think he's wired right.
So on day 2.
Yeah,
I think we're both going to say names that we both really like, that we're both in contention for my guy, for me at least. I won't speak for you.
What are we, 1X, 1 slot?
No, I just had one day 2 guy.
Okay.
Oh, maybe you could
You
say
said
it that
2
way.
names, but all right.
No, I just feel like you're going to say a name and that I almost said. Anyways, Jalen Noel is my guy.
That's what I was going to say.
Okay. So maybe I'm surprised.
Oh, you thought I was going to say Kyle Williams.
I did.
All right. Well, yeah, those are the 2.
Yeah. So it was between those 2.
Yeah.
Similar but different. Jalen Noel, I think, is a pure Z or a pure slot receiver. But I was blown away by his tape the first time through that I watched it. I was not expecting that kind of athlete or that kind of separator at the third level of the defense. I thought that this was going to be Lad McConkey redux, right? Like just a good, crafty wide receiver that's good route runner, that's heady, that's smart, that's tough. He is a lot of those things, but this is a guy that has true vertical stretch. Like he has 3-level speed. He's very, very fast. He's a great athlete. Tested through the roof. I think that took a lot of people by surprise, the RAS score that he put up and all that kind of stuff. He was fantastic throughout the whole process. Great Senior Bowl week, great combine, great tape at Iowa State his final season. The only knock on Jalen Noel is that he's more of an inside guy, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's probably not going to give you the outside reps.
Full-time slot.
I still stick to Tyler Lockett as my comp. I still feel like that's the speed slot comp for him. But I was close with Kyle Williams. I just wish that I had gotten to him earlier and kind of discovered him earlier.
I tried to tell you.
The hesitation that I had with Kyle Williams, and this is probably unfair, and this probably is just was a me thing, not a him thing. I just didn't come away from Senior Bowl week with him circled. Like, I didn't notice him as much as I wanted to notice him. I noticed Restrepo for the wrong reasons, no offense. I noticed the two Iowa State guys for the right reasons. I just felt like I never saw Kyle Williams.
I'll tell you why, because he was like the last guy up on every rep.
Maybe that was
and
what
so
it was.
you were like mentally checking. I'm telling you, I bet that's what it was.
I don't know.
I bet that's what it was.
I don't remember Kyle Williams being there.
You wouldn't know if you watched it on TV. They kept cutting away from him.
Yeah,
again,
I literally don't remember him being there.
The honest knocks on Kyle Williams for me, as big of a fan as I am of his, is an older prospect. He's a late breakout guy. He has kind of
23 years old.
Right, 23 years old. He was decent in 2023. Last year was the year that he really took off, and his numbers are insane. But this is a guy that can get open at all three levels, can create after the catch. He's probably a little bit of a higher floor, lower ceiling player, but I still think he has a decent ceiling. But I'll take the high floor for this team at this point. But with Noel, like, as much as I like Kyle Williams, you give Josh McDaniels, Jalen Noel, and you put him in that Julian Edelman role with the pop he has after the catch, I just think that the ceiling there is tremendous. Yeah. I really do. And I don't know if this is a hot take at this point or not. Specifically for the Patriots, I guess it could be different for different teams. I'll take Jalen Noel over Jaden Higgins. If they're debating between the Iowa State guys, like, Noel's higher on my list for them than Higgins is.
So I have all three of these guys, now that you mentioned Higgins, like, in one tier. I have it Noel, Higgins, Kyle Williams, but like, I have Noel over Higgins, and I'm surprised that that's not a more popular take. I just think Noel runs around with a lot more urgency and a lot more dynamic movement, right? Like, he's not an outside guy, and maybe that's why people just like the size outside with Jaden Higgins. But Jaden Higgins does not play to a 4.47. I'm sorry, he just doesn't. He doesn't play that fast. And so, I thought he was going to be a mid 4.5s guy. I thought if he ran a 4.52, that was going to be a great time for him. He ran a 4.47 on a fast track, but I look at these two guys with Williams and Noel, their route running ability, their separation, it's different. I think Noel is a technician. I think Williams is a pure separator.
Williams is more that, like, and he's not Travis Hunter, but like what you were talking about before, it's not technical. He just gets open. He reads it well. He moves well, all of that. One more day two receiver before we move on. Now that you've actually watched, because we've talked about this guy a few times, but I don't think you had gotten him yet. At least not in depth. Savion Williams. Where are you at with Savion Williams?
I love Savion Williams. I watched him in the first run.
Interesting.
I'm a big fan of Savion Williams. It's going to take some creativity. It's going to take the right fit in terms of the offensive coordinator to get the most out of him. Like, if the 49ers took Savion Williams and turned him into Deebo Samuel, like, he would be a problem.
I mean, that's got to be the comp.
Absolute problem. I think Cordell Patterson's a decent comp as well in terms of that, but he's got a little bit more ball skills, I would say, than Cordell Patterson did. We were not into the draft yet with Patterson, but
no, that was 18, right?
Well, when he was with the Patriots, but
you're right.
Yeah.
Why do I remember doing a draft show about Cordell Patterson?
But Patterson, I don't remember him having the contested catch ability and the stuff that Savion Williams puts on tape. But Cordell Patterson was probably a little bit faster in a straight line than Savion Williams. But Williams got juice. He's got size. He's got contested catch ability. He's just not a great route runner, and he's got a lot of focus drops on tape. He's got way too many drops. But he's a fun player. If you have him in the right role, and maybe Josh McDaniels remembers Cordell Patterson in 2018 and can kind of do the similar thing, I like Savion Williams a lot. It just is a specific type of player.
We might have to do early day 3, late day 3 for receivers. There's just so many.
So my day 3 guy, which was kind of a joke and then kind of also serious.
Is it Dante Thornton?
No, it was close.
Okay.
He was on the short list.
I'm coming around on Dante Thornton. I
okay,
actually
so
am.
let's do early day 3 and late day
Okay.
3 so we can get to that. Tez Johnson is
Come on.
I still believe.
Come on.
I will not quit Tez Johnson. I will
Dante
not
Thornton's
quit.
right there.
I will not quit. He's gonna. I think Dante Thornton is gonna get drafted later than Tez. I still think Tez is like a 4th round pick.
Okay.
He's quick, not fast. We've confirmed that.
Yes.
He's tiny. I get
He's
that.
very small.
He's quick, not fast. I still feel like he's Tank Dell, and I still feel like he is going to overcome all these doubts about him and have a nice NFL
He's not
career.
going to stay healthy.
What is going to happen is exactly what's happened with Tank Dell. He's going to get drafted. He's going to have an awesome first 8 weeks of his rookie season, and he's going to tear every single ligament in his knee, and that's going to be it for him the end of the
Do you
year.
think that's a good pick?
No, I just think that he's a good football
All right,
player, and if he can stay healthy,
He's a good college football player.
if he can stay healthy, and I know it's a
Big
major if, but if he can stay healthy, I think he's going to be a good football player.
My early day 3 guy, I could go Dante Thornton. I'm kind of coming around. I think he'll go early day 3 to me. He's like 175 and up.
Yeah, I have a good Dante Thornton comp for you.
Okay.
So
But
don't do it.
we haven't talked a lot about this guy. I thought we were going to talk a lot about him throughout the draft, and we really haven't. I'm still a believer in Torrey Horton.
Yeah.
He got hurt this year. That hurt his stock. He probably should have transferred out of Colorado State. I respect him for not doing it, but he probably should have. He's a true X. He plays with some pop. He's hyper competitive. He's worth a flyer to me. He's worth a flyer. It maybe 106 is a little high, but maybe with one of those 140 picks, if he's still on the board, you'd probably need a trade and get into like the 120s, 130s. I like Torrey Horton. I'm not totally out on Torrey Horton. I don't think he's going to be a top 100 pick like he was projected to be, nor should he. But I'm not totally out on Torrey Horton like some people are, I think.
Okay, that's fair enough. All right, let's get to Dante Thornton, who was on my list,
Yeah.
a short list. I think it was between him and Tez Johnson, but I wanted to get the Tez Johnson shenanigans in there. Dante Thornton is the Joe Milton of wide receivers.
No, Savion Williams is the Joe Milton
No,
wide receiver.
no.
No, I've made this comparison.
No,
it's
he's
Savion
not.
Williams.
That's incorrect.
Yes, it is. He's the
Savion
most
Williams-
interesting player in the draft.
Savion Williams is way more refined as a receiver than Joe Milton.
No, but
was
he's
as
the most
quarterback.
interesting player in the draft.
No,
That's
no.
the comp.
Dante Thornton
Besides Travis Hunter.
is Joe Milton of wide receivers.
Okay, explain.
Because he has all of the tools. Like if you
Yeah.
wanted to program a wide receiver in a lab, it would be Dante Thornton, but he's not actually very good at football.
So this is he's good at all the individual things you need to be good at to be good at football, but he's not good at
fast,
football.
He's got legitimate breakaway speed. Like not like, he just runs a good 40 breakaway speed. He has legitimate NFL, football speed, play speed. He's 6'4", 205 pounds. He's not Tyquan Thornton. He's not 180 pounds soaking wet. He's got size.
But can he move
He's got speed.
like laterally better than Thornton? Can he get open?
No.
All right, well that's a skill you need.
But my point is that there's a ton of raw talent with this player. He played at Tennessee, so that also fits a little bit there.
That is true,
He
yes.
has a wonky offense, just like Joe Milton did at Tennessee. He runs like 3 routes. He runs a shallow, he runs an in or an under or a slant, and he runs a go. Like, that's it. That's his entire route tree are slants and go balls. And the occasion, a hitch route as well.
Yeah.
Right. So those are his 4 routes. But he takes a slant. He takes a 5-step slant, a glance route, skinny post, and he takes that thing 80 yards to the house when you hit him in stride with it. And there's only so many people on planet Earth can do that. Just like there's only so many people that can throw the ball as far and as hard as Joe Milton. There's only so many people that run as fast as Dante Thornton.
Look, if the plan is to bring him in and have him be like Damiere Byrd, Nelson Aguilar, just running go routes on the side to keep other teams honest, and you're getting him at like 140-something in.
Yeah, we got him.
Not above
it took me
that.
so long to get you
Not
to
above
accept
that,
this.
and I don't think that he solves any long-term issues at receiver.
No.
But for this year, where they don't have a true X, and they don't have a lot of speed, you want somebody to keep teams on. Again, Damiere Byrd, that's the comp. And Damiere Byrd was just kind of out there to keep teams honest.
He's much bigger,
but
yeah.
role-wise, right?
Yeah.
Nelson Aguilar, that role,
Yeah.
and he's doing it with more size, and maybe you run a couple end arounds to him, fine, in.
Yeah, that's the take with Thornton though, because I think a lot of people, first of all, like I want to
hang on. If they draft a tall, fast guy named Thornton,
So
know
here's
what
the
the
thing.
takes are going to be.
Here's
I'm not
the
saying
thing.
they're right, but you know what's going to happen.
He's Dante Smith from now on, because I don't want to hear about the stupid thing about his last name
Where are you
also
getting
being.
Smith from?
I'm just picked a generic last name because all you people are making such a big deal out of the fact that his last name is Thornton, and it's
Thornton
ridiculous.
Again? We doing Thornton
it's
again,
absolutely
Evan?
crazy. He's like 25 pounds heavier than Taekwon Thornton. Like he's like,
Look,
he's
you're not
so,
wrong. They're different
like,
players, but it's
very
going to be
different
objectively
players.
funny.
He, to me, is like late round flyer DK Metcalf, right? Like he's obviously not DK Metcalf.
He's just twitched up, big, yeah.
Fast, big, explosive,
Traits.
outside
I don't hate the
receiver.
Joe Milton comp. I don't hate that.
Oh no, it's
But it's still Savion Williams for me.
No, it's definitely not. All right, let's get the tight ends. Go
Wait, late day 3.
Okay, yeah, I thought we were doing Dante Thornton.
Oh, no, that was like in the middle.
No,
I have one
no,
more guy that's not getting talked about enough.
Okay, go ahead.
And I've talked about it a lot on Patriots Beat. I haven't talked a lot about him here. Isaac Tesla from Arkansas.
Yeah, he is getting some buzz.
So another guy, big, 6'4", 212, great straight line speed, excellent job tracking the ball. Sounds like an X, right?
Yeah.
He almost exclusively plays the slot. So you're going to have to teach him to do some more things underneath. But he's good down the field. He brings good speed. He's great on special teams. This is, again, a later pick, one of those 170 picks, right? If you can develop his underneath game, you're talking about a guy who profiles. Now, the mental side of it, this other guy had in leaps and bounds, so that would have to catch up. Profiles like a faster Jacoby Myers. There's going to be some work for him to get there, but that's kind of what the path would be for me, for Isaac Tesla. And he's going to be really good on special teams.
I got a comp.
Okay.
Andre Yoshivas with the Bengals.
I think he's faster, but that's not a bad comp.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
I think he's... Maybe I'm underrating how fast Yoshivas is, but...
Yeah, Yoshivas is like a big slot that can stretch the field vertically up the seam. You know, he's not going to run by people on the outside, but he has enough juice to do it inside. That was sort of what I saw with Tesla. I think you're right, though. He's picking up some steam.
And you know what? If you get that guy and he ends up in the 170s and he ends up being your third wide receiver, again, this isn't the guy that's going to solve all their wide receiver problems.
Yeah.
I'm just looking up. So... Yoshivas, 6'3", 205. He ran a 4.4. He ran a 4.43. Okay,
he's got some juice.
Tesla literally ran a 4.43. Did you pull that off Mock Draftable?
I mean, you know.
Did you?
I
Yeah,
do,
you
I
did.
do,
Okay.
I do my homework.
Yeah, you did.
I do my homework.
6'3", 205 versus 6'4", 214 for Tesla. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. There's your comp. All right. Let's get to the phones, and then we'll come back to the rest of the positions because we still got a little ways to go, and these people have been waiting online or on hold, I should say, for a while. Patty is in Agawam. What's up, Patty?
What is up, gentlemen?
What's up?
How we doing?
How y'all doing today?
Good.
I'm doing good. So, I just want to make it clear, like, I'm on record thinking that Hunter and Carter are going to be gone by the time we pick, and I'm all in on Will Campbell if that's going to be the pick at 4. If we can't move down, actually, I don't like the thought of moving down because I think we might miss out. And I don't mind Jalen Walker, like if we do move down and miss Will Campbell. But I just wanted to read you guys a couple of things real quick. And this is from Wyatt Brooks, SEC scout. The tape shows a technically refined blocker who's ready to start from day one at tackle, not guard, tackle. And like at the end of his breakdown, and I got this at NFLDraftBuzz.com. So the very last paragraph he writes, after studying the film, moving Campbell inside would be a mistake. Despite his shorter arms, his exceptional technique and recovery ability demand a shot at tackle. And I know that's just one man's opinion, and we're kind of getting, some people that are sitting on the fence, and then you got guys like Daniel Jeremiah who says, yeah, play him at tackle. The short arms don't really pose a threat or a concern to me. And really, before Evan, you said this a couple weeks ago, and you brought it up last week too. There's never been a discussion about wingspan until this year. This prospect. Why? Why is the big picture? I'm not seeing it. Why is all this crap coming out now? And I think if we get him. Noel, I've said this on PU, Evan. Noel's my guy. I want him in the second round. If we can get those two guys and possibly Mason Taylor on day 2, I'll walk away from this draft a happy man. That is with the caveat of Hunter and Carter gone. And last thing I want to touch on, Alex, Little quick non sequitur. Your co-host on PB, if he ever starts his own podcast, I think he should call it Hindsight or Patriots Hindsight. That's it.
I'll pass that along.
Is that Brian?
Yeah.
Nice.
I'll pass that along.
Nice. I think the Carter thing with Wingspan Campbell. So many names. The Campbell thing with Wingspan is brought up because it's such an outlier, right? Like if it wasn't such a major outlier, if mock draftable had another tackle that was in the same stratosphere as him in terms of wingspan, then we wouldn't be talking about it as much. But it is, and I think the number one thing that I keep coming back to with Will Campbell, I've been pretty consistent, other than the stupid combine. I've been pretty consistent about him playing at tackle and sticking at tackle. And I think the one thing that I would just say about it is that, is he going to be Jonathan Ogden? Is he going to be Orlando Pace? No, he's not going to be one of those types of guys. But what, in my opinion, he's going to be is a very solid NFL left tackle for the future, for a long term. And in this draft, in this level of talent class, that's a good pick.
And at that position, too.
At that position. If he is, a comp that I came up with recently that I liked a little bit better, like a Jake Matthews type. Yeah. Jake Matthews is not a future Hall of Famer. He's not ever been like a multi-time All-Pro or anything like that, but he's been a quality starter for like a decade in Atlanta, and the Falcons have not thought twice about left tackle since the day that they drafted him. And that, to me, is all you're looking for in this kind of draft. And I think that Will Campbell can be that.
At that position where there's not enough... Think about it this way. There's not enough human beings on the planet needed to fully staff the NFL for left tackles.
Yeah.
There just aren't. So if you get a guy that can do it for 8 to 10 years at least, who is of that level, maybe not above it, but of that level... That's a win.
Yeah.
In this draft, especially, that's a win. Yeah. I told Nate Solder, Matt Light, like just guys that you're not going to talk about replacing them. He's there. He's good. Set it and forget it. You move on. You can build the rest of the team. It's been 7 years they've been trying to find a guy to play there. They have a guy now, and they did before, but they have a guy now too they really need to protect.
Yeah.
It's Just get him. Just get him, and we can stop worrying about this.
So I've been looking around for a comp for Campbell for a while.
I thought it was Jake Matthews.
It is Jake Matthews is what I'm settled on, and I'll pull up the number because Jake Matthews, it wasn't quite Will Campbell short in terms of wingspan, but his wingspan was also under 80 inches, right? So he was on the shorter side in terms of wingspan, on the shorter side in terms of arm length. He's been in the league for 11 years. He's made one Pro Bowl. So this is not Jonathan Ogden, right? Like, this is not Joe Thomas. This is not an all-time great player at the position. But again, for 11 years, the Atlanta Falcons have not thought about who's our left tackle. Right? They know who their left tackle is. And if that's what Will Campbell ends up being, then I'm perfectly fine with that. I said earlier that, something that's irking me is with Travis Hunter and the rawness and the unpolished receiver label that he's getting. Something that is irking me right now about the Will Campbell discourse is, well, he's not Jonathan Ogden or Joe Thomas. And you don't, that's what you want if you're drafting at 4. Cool.
If that guy was in this draft, I'd tell you to take him.
Right. It was great to want things.
Right.
That's not the talent pool that we're working with. It's irrelevant that he's not that kind of prospect.
Just as a whole, across the board, he's not, and you hear it with him, you hear it with Ted McMillan, you hear it with Mason Graham, you hear it with a lot of these guys. Well, he's not really what you want at the 4th overall pick.
Yeah.
If Malik Neighbors was in this draft, I'd be pounding the table for them to take him at 4.
Right.
I would. That guy doesn't exist. If you can trade down, great. But if you can't, once again, you can't just tell Roger Goodell, pencil us in for next year.
Yeah.
Right? We're gonna pass. We're gonna take up, but you can't. You got it. You can only pick from the players who are available.
Right.
It sucks that they're picking high in a crucial year, in a year where the draft isn't great. That sucks. You can't. It's not Madden where you can go load in another draft file. This is what it is.
I don't really understand that reference, but I'll
in
take
Madden,
your word for it.
Like, you can upload custom draft class. You can either have it generate one for you, or you can upload custom ones. So some people, if they're doing a franchise and the custom draft isn't good, you can have it. You can either upload one somebody made or just have it create a new one. You obviously can't do that.
So you
in real
can just
life.
you can create a new one that has all 99s. And
if you want, or one that's just better. But then what's the fun in it?
All right. Kendall's in North Carolina. What's up, Kendall?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good.
Hey.
Yes, just for both of y'all, I wanted to know what's y'all gut feeling right now on how the first 3 picks will go. And my second question is, we visited with a wide receiver today from Auburn. I forgot his name. Are y'all familiar with him? And I'll take it up there. I appreciate it.
Thanks for the call, Kendall. My gut feeling right now on 1, 2, 3, Ward, Carter, Hunter.
Same.
That's my gut feeling. I don't totally buy into the thing we spent the first 20 minutes of the show talking about with Abdul Carter falling in this draft. I don't totally buy into that totally yet. If it's not Ward, Carter, Hunter, it'll be Ward, Hunter, Carter. I think those 3 guys are the first 3 picks in the draft. I do not think the Browns or the Giants are going to get duped by drafting quarterback, with Shador. I think at this point, everybody says people get silly with quarterbacks. They use Penix and Bo Nix going higher than expected last year. I almost think at this point that the Browns and the Giants need to look. They feel like they might look smarter by passing on Shador than taking Shador. Because if they take Shador, it's going to be Daniel Jones, right? On draft night, everybody's going to be like, this is a bad pick. What are you doing?
Right.
They might end up being right in 3 years, but Brian Dable and Joe Shane aren't going to be there in 3 years to be right about it, right? They're going to be out. So I just wonder if maybe, they end up just passing. There's a lot of buzz right now on those 2 teams specifically, doing their homework on Jackson Dart, doing their homework on Jalen Milroe, doing their homework on Will Howard. Those guys are all been in 30 visits in all those places too. And I wonder if they're one or both of those teams is going to say, let's just get the guy at the top of the second round. Let's try Will Levis, right? It doesn't work out, but you're throwing a dart and let's just try something else. All right.
Also, the guy they met with, projected late day 3 pick, fast guy from Auburn.
There's a lot of that. Remember Anthony Schwartz?
Oh, you were big on Anthony Schwartz.
Fast guy from Auburn.
Yeah.
All right. Brad is in Ohio. What's up, Brad?
How you doing, guys?
Hey.
Good.
Good talking to you. Got a couple quick things I want to run by young players and see if you've looked into them. I'll just spit some out real quick. First of all, the quarterbacks, Castro in round 3, Denzel Burke, and then a defensive tackle, C.J. West from Indiana. And then running backs, my first pick, I've got slower running backs like Johnson from Iowa. Just because I watched him play, I would like him. And Junkins from from Ohio State, and of course Edwards. You guys aren't mentioning him no more. I'm telling you, he's going to be a sleeper.
Brad, I gotta let you go.
Phones were off there.
Sorry there, Brad. If you want to email us in the names, I heard some of them. I think he was mentioning Denzel Burke from Ohio State.
So Denzel Burke's a really interesting one.
Yeah, he's kind of one of those guys that kind of reminded me of Sean Wade's career arc, right? Where
very similar.
There was a lot of hype for him, and then he didn't have the year that people were expecting last year. The only thing that I did watch him, and the only thing that I had a little bit of concerns about was top end speed. I don't know if he's
Burke?
I don't know if he's quite the fastest guy on the outside.
He had a lot of penalties too.
Yeah, and I think that might have been because of the him grabbing and him getting a little bit antsy. But he's well versed in different coverages. Certainly seen a lot of really good competition over the years. He's kind of a solid guy. I just wouldn't necessarily say that he's got a highish ceiling. He's probably more of a floor prospect.
I think it's the opposite.
You do.
He's one of these guys like Bill would have drafted him. Bill absolutely, because one of the things the Patriots would do on day 3, they drafted a couple guys like this. They would go find, and this kind of player is going to sort of become extinct in the draft because of the transfer portal. They would go find the guys that were high-ranked recruits where it didn't work out in college for one reason or another and see if they could tap into that. Denzel Burke was a 4-star recruit, 91 composite grade at 24/7, and he had a really good first couple years, and he was supposed to be like a first-round pick. And then in the last year and a half, it kind of fell off, and he had a really bad year last year. So he's a guy to me you take kind of banking on or looking to, all right, well, what went wrong last year, and is it something we can fix? And can we get him back on track to where he was supposed to be? I don't know how Vrabel necessarily feels about those players. Like, I'm not saying he's off the Patriots board.
Yeah.
I don't. It's more a thing where, like, if it was Bill, I think he's somebody we would have talked about a lot more. But he's a really interesting one.
Yeah,
because he was. I think he was a projected first round pick a year ago.
I feel like you just described Sean Wade like that. Like Sean Wade was really similar to me.
They also had, who was the defensive lineman from Auburn who he went to Florida State and they just ruined him. And then from Maryland. He transferred around a couple times. Byron Cowart was the number one recruit in the country, and he I forget the order. He was at Maryland, he was at Florida State, he was at Auburn. But like, it just, the schools he was at did not know how to use him. They turned him from a stand-up edge rusher into a nose tackle.
Yeah.
And Bill drafted him, and it was just like, well, let's see what's there.
Yeah.
So Denzel Burke's not as extreme of a case. I think Cowart was the number one recruit in the country.
Yeah.
But it's a similar sort of thing.
Do you remember when Bill dunked on me about Byron Cowart?
No, what was that?
I still remember that to this day.
How do I forget
like,
that?
These
what
are
was
like
it?
There's certain like little things that happened to me when I got Belichicked early on in my beat career, and that one, like, it kind of sticks with you, right? Like, you kind of remember these things. I misspoke and I said that Cowart was like a run player when he was a pass player, when he was a run player. I obviously got my wires crossed, and Bill just roasted me. Bill was just like, I think I said, like, you guys have talked about him being this, and it was totally off.
Yeah.
And Bill was like, I talked about that? Like, that's
I do remember this. Yeah.
I didn't say that. Yeah. Oh, God, was I embarrassed.
I thought Byron Cowart was going to work. I thought they might have had something there.
Yeah, those types of things stick with you.
In the league?
All right, before we get back to the phones, let's try to finish up my guys, because we got bogged down there a little bit with some of these.
Byron Cowart is still in the league. Good for him. He's on the Jets.
Yeah, I feel like he'll kick
still
around.
Hanging around.
We're at tight ends. Right?
Yep.
We've done quarterback, running back, receiver. Day 1, day 2, day 3 tight ends.
Yeah.
Day 1 tight end. I put down Colson Loveland. I love Colson Loveland's tape. I think that it's a risk. Sample size risk. He got injured. He doesn't have a ton of volume to his stats. But you watch the tape, man, and he's the closest thing to Brock Bowers in this draft, like in terms of explosiveness and dynamic route running ability, and just a real. He just plays at a different speed than other people. It really pops off the tape like that. Tyler Warren's more well-rounded. He's more productive in college. A little bit of a cleaner prospect, a cleaner evaluation, which is why I assume he'll go ahead of Loveland. The Patriots are not in a position to risk it on a guy like Loveland, so that's why I don't even think I'm going to have him in my top 50 because of that. But I think that he's going to be a good NFL player. I just don't know if you have that margin for error.
So I'm going to do kind of what you did with the running backs. Call it top 40, maybe not first round.
Yeah.
I'm seeing Mason Taylor projected in the 60s. Like, what are we doing? Yeah. I think he's going to go much higher than people think. I don't know that he sneaks into the first round. Does he sneak into the top 40? I could see it. He's clearly the third best tight end in this draft. Copycat league. People are going to want their Brock Bowers, and stylistically he's a different player, but just that rookie upstart tight end. And we talked about this, I think, last week. Part of what made Brock Bowers so impressive was tight end is generally a longer developing position. There's so few tight ends that are impact players as rookies. Mason Taylor's young, but he's so polished for his age. It really stands out that I think he's a guy that can come in and contribute year one. If you're mocking Mason Taylor to the Patriots at 69, I think you're kidding yourself. Yeah. He's a top 50 pick to me at least, and I think he might even sneak up higher than that.
Young too, right? Like only 20 right now. He'll be 21 as a rookie.
Early breakout, ton of runway to go.
Yeah, really high upside player. Yeah. Really fast in straight line. Stretch the field vertically and horizontally. Slide routes. Dump offs in the flat. He can turn those into big plays. I think he's got some route running, technique stuff that he's got to work on to be able to win a little bit more on angular routes. I don't think he's gonna. You see a ton of real angles. Slants, digs. That type of stuff with it on his tape, but once he gets to that point, maybe he kind of excels at that a little bit more. I look at him right now. I see a little bit of Tucker Kraft, like I see that straight line speed and the gimmicky speed on the scheme touches and things like that. But I think that he has a ceiling that's much higher, like maybe even like a Sam Laporta like level ceiling once he gets into the league. I'm with you on Mason Taylor. My day 2 guy. Other than Taylor, who I think will be early day 2, I really like Terrence Ferguson from Oregon. I just feel like he didn't really get a chance to show off all the things that he can do down the field. He was kind of their dump off security blanket, like a kind of near the line of scrimmage kind of guy. Doesn't have a high average depth of target. Find some soft spots over the middle. That sort of thing. But I think there's some untapped potential there in terms of running seams and verticals, and he'll maybe do that a little bit more at the other level, at the next level. The other guy, because I like both of them kind of equally, Gunnar Helm. I think Gunnar Helm's being slept on.
He should not run that 40.
Right, he ran that 40 and throw the 40 out like it doesn't exist. Like it is irrelevant that on a torn ankle he ran a bad 40. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't. It's not going to impact his NFL status. He reminds me of Hunter Henry a lot. Like I think
I can see that.
Yeah, I have really similar players. I just think that he's going to be a quarterback's best friend. He's going to find the soft spots over the middle of the field. He's going to be quarterback friendly. He's going to have great hands. He's going to have great reliability. He's going to be able to block. I don't think he's going to be a great blocker, but he'll be a solid, adequate NFL blocker in line. If I had to pick anybody out of this class on day 2, I think it'd be Gunnar Helm.
Yeah, those are my two guys, kind of in that range. I'm not as high on Fannin for the Patriots. Arroyo's fine. Doesn't, again, not necessarily a Patriots fit for me.
Yeah.
So day 3, though, there's some interesting ones.
All right, give me your day 3.
Okay, so my guy for day 3 is Mitchell Evans.
Yeah.
I think he's going to come in, be the best blocking tight end right away, and he has the upside to be a plus receiver, but you have a year or two to kind of get him there certainly behind Austin Hooper as the second tight end, and then you hope eventually he takes over for Hunter Henry as your starting tight end.
Yeah.
So I've kind of been on Mitchell Evans for a while. I think he's a good fit for them. I also, because we're doing tight ends / fullbacks, I got to bring up Robbie Oates here. I really want him to bring in Robbie Oates, kind of hybrid between, I've settled on my comp for him. He's halfway between Kyle Juszczyk and Patrick Ricard.
You can never just give a comp. Just give a straight comp.
But he's not.
Not. Oh,
but
he's
he's
a blend
not
of
as
these two
athletic.
guys.
He's not as athletic as Juszczyk.
Okay.
And he's not as big as Ricard. He's somewhere in the middle.
So who's
Am I wrong?
No, but there's a guy on the Chargers.
Oh, Matlock. He also doesn't he also play defense?
He's 300 pounds. He might be a little bit.
Yeah,
too big.
I think he's bigger too.
There's another guy though. Look up the Chargers in a second. They have Matlock, but they have another guy too who's the same kind of guy. Because the Harbaughs have to have 17 of the same kind of guy.
Yeah, they'll be adding Robbie Oates.
Yeah, I feel like maybe that's your Robbie Oates comp.
But I want Robbie Oates on the Patriots.
Okay, so help me with this last name.
I have no idea who you're. McAllen Castles?
No. Is it CJ Dip?
I think it's Drippy. I think
Drippy from Alabama. Just looking late day 3, 6th, 7th round guy. But if you want a blocking tight end, just a guy that's going to be able to come in and be a third tight end and block really well in line, CJ Dupree was the most impressive guy I saw.
Him more than Jackson Hawes?
Yeah, I really like Dupree. Hawes, I think, has a little bit more of a receiving upside and is probably going to go a little earlier.
Okay.
It would be my guess. But if you're really looking for we know what he's going to be.
Yeah.
He's just going to come in and block on red zone and goal line and short yardage situations, being a third tight end in the league for a long time because he's a great blocker. I think Dupree is the guy.
Here's a comp for you. It's simple comp.
Yeah.
Lee Smith.
Sure.
You remember Lee Smith?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lee Smith. He was the only tight end the Patriots drafted between Rob Gronk. They drafted Gronk and Hernandez. The next year, they drafted Lee Smith, and they didn't draft a tight end for 10 years until they double dipped in whatever year that was. Did you get a chance to watch Rondé Gadsden?
No, I got to do all the rest of the tight ends.
Okay.
That's
I'm still curious your thoughts on
That's one of my
Gadsden.
last bails to go into the barn.
Is it? See, I just go in order. I go in I call it alphabetical order. It's not alphabetical order, but the order that positions have always been listed in since the beginning of time.
I try to go in order of the draft board.
Yeah.
So because of all the content that we do surrounding the draft, knowing the top 100 is really what I need to be able to ace.
Yeah.
In terms of the draft. So I literally go through the mock draft database. I put the consensus board up at each position, and anybody that's in the top 100, I just watch all 10 of those guys.
Okay.
And then I watch the next 10 and the next 10 and the next 10.
I just do. I guess it's because I kind of figure out the top 100 guys just watching college football in the fall. So I'll go just position by position.
All right. Did you do tackle and interior offensive line?
We can split it up.
All right. So I did tackle and interior offensive line. So day 1 tackle is Will Campbell. I've been on Will Campbell since the beginning. I know that I got a little flaky there for a second, but I've been on Will Campbell since the beginning. I'm not going to come off it now. If the Patriots draft Will Campbell in 2 weeks, I will not be upset. I'll be happy. I'll feel good about it. I will think they got a left tackle. So Will Campbell, I don't have to go too deep into it. We've been over Will Campbell 1,000 times. But if I have to pick my guy on day one at tackle, I can't. I got to go with Will Campbell.
Yeah, I wish I had his middle name to hammer the point home. I don't. I was just looking. I can't find it. William Campbell.
Well, can't find
Sounds like a general.
All right, day 2.
Day 2.
Yeah.
So I still don't think Ariante Aristuri is going to fall.
Yeah.
I don't. So when I say this, I'm not including Ariante Aristuri in this group. It's Ozzie Trapillo.
Oh, we have the same big Oz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is swing tackle potential. Long term, he could be your starting right. I don't think he's going to start on the left side in the NFL, but if you need him to pitch in there for a game or two, I think he can. But I think ideally, he's your swing tackle this year, and then next year, it's him, Caden Wallace battling it out for the right, or whenever Morgan Moses moves on, a year, 2 years, whatever. So obviously not. I'm excited for Morgan Moses, but he's obviously not a young guy.
Yeah.
One of those two guys becomes your starting right tackle.
Big Oz. I think Ozzie Trapillo is going to be a starting right tackle in the NFL not before long. I think he's better than Caden Wallace in terms of a prospect. Caden Wallace barely played last year.
Yeah.
So right now, if I had to take a bet on who would be a starting right tackle in the NFL, Caden Wallace or Ozzie Trapillo, I'm taking Ozzie all day. And I just think he's really technically savvy, really good hand fighter. He's got great size at the position, great length at the position. I just feel like he's a very good prospect all around. I really feel very strongly about Trapillo being a good NFL player. He's probably right tackle. I would agree with that.
Yep.
He maybe can play swing tackle early on in his career as the backup, third tackle, swing tackle, whatever you want to call it. Maybe you let that happen for a year. He develops underneath Morgan Moses for a year and a half, or whatever the case may be. As long as Moses can go, you let him go. I think there's going to be opportunities. Although Moses has been really, really durable. It's not been perfect. He's missed some games. Not
the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's never been major. Like he's missed an entire season or half a season.
But you might need a game or two. I think Trapillo could get some chances to play as a rookie that way, and I would take him on day 2 of the draft. Probably in the double dip, would be ideal. Yeah. My question is how long can you wait on Trapillo? I think 38 is a little bit high, but I think 69 is really you're starting to talk about. You got to take him. I think it's 69 to be a good pick. I've said this. I strongly believe that any players they take in the top 100, they need those guys to play this year, and they need those guys to contribute this year. The one exception I have to that rule, for me, it's not their rule, it's my rule. I guess rule isn't the right word. The one exception I have to that take for me is if they draft a right tackle to be in the pipeline to replace Morgan Moses, and I came up with that take basically around Ozzie Trapillo.
Yeah.
Maybe they end up doing it with somebody else. Maybe it's Anthony Belton. Maybe it's Cameron Williams. But that's why I have that it's like a carve out for Ozzie Trapillo. That is the one guy I think I'd be comfortable with him taking in the top 100 who's not playing a significant role in 2025.
Agreed. Day 3.
So I think everybody expects me to say Holland Pierce because that's my kind of guy. He's huge. He's massive. He's not necessarily great at football, but he can't teach size. I'm actually going to go away from that. I wouldn't hate Holland Pierce. Don't get me wrong. I just think Carson Vincent's getting slept on.
Yeah.
Now, he probably isn't a right tackle, and for a guy going that low, he's projected later, day 3, you kind of want some positional versatility, so he's an outlier there. I think he might be able to play some guard, which helps, but I think he has the size in the sense that he's tall and long. I think he's only 310 pounds, but he can add to his frame. He can get up to 320, I think, relatively easily, and it won't impact him that much. 5-year starter at Alabama A&M, played well at the Senior Bowl, held his own against that higher level of competition, and I think he's got the mentality down. He looks like a smart football player, definitely plays with a lot of nastiness. He's older, he's coming from a smaller school, he doesn't have that positional versatility. I think that's why he's going to go where he's going to go, but in a double dip, because they might want a backup left tackle too if they're not sold on Vidarian Lowe as the backup. Definitely, I think, can be a backup left tackle in the NFL. And then you see just kind of what happens with him down the road. But a good backup left tackle is not nothing. And if you can get that guy, I certainly think you can get him at the 170s. You might even be able to get him with that 220 pick, depending on how it goes. You get a backup left tackle there, great, awesome, solid pick.
Yeah, I really liked him in the Senior Bowl. Everybody did. I mean,
Yeah.
he had that one spotlight drill in the middle of the field. Who did he go up against? It was a top 100 rusher.
Was it Uman Mielen? Or was it one of the
No.
Texas A&M? I think it was one of the Texas A&M guys.
Might have been Stewart.
It was an SEC guy.
Yeah, it shut him down. You won the rep. So I do like him a little bit. I really like Jalen Rivers from Miami too. Another Senior Bowl guy that I thought stood out.
Yeah.
He could probably play inside as well. Played a little bit of both at Miami. It's weird. They almost went drive to drive with it at times, where he played left tackle and left guard, and he would just kind of flip flop in and out, which was interesting. So I think that long term, he could play guard. And be your starting left guard. I think you could also have him play, swing tackle, backup left tackle, that sort of thing as well. I just like his game. Big dude, good size, really good length. He has 35-inch arms, and in his short tackle class at the combine, he was the one guy that measured in with long arms.
And if you measured with 35 at the combine, they're probably closer to 38.
Yeah, he's got freaking tree trunks. And I just think he's a big dude, moves people, great length, a little bit of positional versatility. I just think those are the types of guys that the league needs. Every team needs that kind of guy that has the functional strength, the measurables, and versatility. He might not be, he's not going to go to, any all-pro teams or Pro Bowls, but those types of linemen can be really valuable.
What are your thoughts on Holland Pierce? I just need that real quick.
He's a raw ball of clay. He's a big raw ball of clay. I feel the same way, almost similar with him as I do with Anthony Belton. I think Anthony Belton
is kind of day 2, day 3. Yeah,
Anthony Belton, I feel like is getting a really hyped up in the media boards and stuff like that for a guy that's got a long way to go in pass protection.
My ceiling comp for him is Trent Brown, but that's a ceiling.
He's got a lot of. He's raw. He's raw, Anthony Belton. I'm surprised by how much Anthony Belton buzz there is.
Yeah, that's usually the guy that I like that nobody else likes, and I'm wondering why he's not ranked higher. Now I'm almost suspicious that everybody likes him. I'm what's going on? This is supposed to be my guy.
All right, so we have. Do you have any guards or / centers?
Yeah, I have some interior guys.
All right, day one, Gray Zabel. I think Gray Zabel is going to be Joe Tooney 2.0. I think he's going to be a really good football player. He's going to play guard. I think he's going to play left guard.
I think Brugler had him as a center in the Beast today.
Okay, so there's some center flex there.
Yeah.
And he did some center stuff at the Senior Bowl, but I think that guard's a little bit more valuable. I think he can play left guard at a really high level. He's going to pass protect at a really high level at that spot, be extremely athletic at that spot as well. But either interior spot, left guard or center, I could see Gray Zabel excelling at. And I think there's a lot of value in that. Do you have any day one guys?
Yeah, I'm going to, again, approaching this from a Patriots point of view.
Yeah.
And I think we talked a little bit about this last week. We've talked about tackle trade up receiver trade up tackle. What about just hammering the offensive line? And some of this take, too, is I think Gray Zabel might go too high for them to do this.
Yeah.
And I know he's a right guard. I would love to see them. Will Campbell trade up Tyler Booker.
Yeah.
That whole offensive line. Campbell, Booker, I guess question mark, but we think Garrett Bradbury, Mike Onwenu, Morgan Moses. That is a mean offensive line. You are going to hate your life as a defensive lineman playing against those guys for 60 minutes.
Yeah.
And it leaves them shortchanged in some other spots, but I think Booker, team captain at Alabama, tone setter, played he'll be a guard in the NFL, but he played some left guard for them, even played a little tackle for them, but just again, a guy that sets the tone for the Alabama offensive line and did it under Saban, not just this past year. You bring that guy in, you put him next to Will Campbell. Holy moly, you're going to have a lot of fun on the left side of the offensive line. I don't know that it's my ultimate favorite thing that they would do, but I would sneaky love that.
Oh, I would love it too. I've come around. I never needed.
And by the way, if they did it with Zabel, I'd be cool with it too. But I really like Tyler Booker.
I didn't need to be sold on Tyler Booker, but I just didn't think he was going to be there. But after the combine and the fact that he didn't test very
he had
well,
a bad combine. But I don't care with him.
He's an interior offensive lineman.
Right.
But at the same time, you know how teams are.
Yeah.
And now Gray Zabel might go ahead of him because he had a better pre-draft process than Tyler Booker. Teams might overthink Tyler Booker.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's totally out of the question that a quote-unquote unathletic guard falls to 38.
You even think of 38. See, so I look at it, the Seahawks are at 18, right?
Yeah.
And then the Texans are at 25. Those are two clear guard teams.
Yeah.
So I could see them both going in the first round. But yeah, if Tyler Booker's there at 38, you don't have to trade up for him. All the better. Great.
So Seattle tends to be in love with the numbers, with the measurables. Casario in Houston makes a lot of sense.
For
like
Booker?
Yeah.
Well,
like,
if it's Zabel at 18, I think that's what I have in my last mock. Zabel at 18, Booker at 25.
They won't overthink Booker. Like
Yeah.
they won't overthink the combine and all that kind of stuff. You put Tyler Booker in a Josh McDaniels gap scheme, like a downhill run scheme. Yeah, that's where he
have some
belongs.
fun.
I think that's the other thing with Booker. There's so many Kyle Shanahan inspired outside zone teams. He's not an outside zone.
No, he's a
offensive
mauler.
lineman. He's a gap downhill. Get him on a double team, have him pull. Like that's what he does.
Imagine the Tyler Booker, Keon White one-on-ones in camp.
I think it's great
a lot of
too.
violence.
Just the fit, because Bradbury's a smaller center.
Yeah.
He's undersized, and he's his play strength is a big concern.
Or even if you're going to try Cole Strange there, also applies.
Right. So if you put Booker and Onwenu on either side of Garrett Bradbury or Cole Strange, like you give them some girth next to them, that might help the center, be able to handle power a little bit better and be able to hold the middle of the pocket a little bit better. If he's got two just boulders on either side of him, that would make the most sense. It's kind of why I've been a little bit back in on City So lately, just because I feel like he's a big guard too. Kind of can do the same sort of thing. But with Tyler Booker, if he's there, if he falls for all these combine, athletic profile concerns, I could definitely see that. Day 2, I had Wyatt Milam. I think Wyatt Milam's getting slept on because he's probably going to move inside at the next level. But I think he's going to be a very, very good guard in the NFL. I don't see a real path for him.
You don't think he's going to be a center? I think he's going to be a center.
He's a little tall to be a center, but it's possible.
Teams seem to be less bothered by that now than they used to.
I just love moving these guys to guard. Like I feel like guard is there's still a ton of value in pass blocking at guard because you have all these interior defensive linemen that rush the passer at a high level. Like if you go up against, Quinnen Williams twice a year and Ed Oliver twice a year, and, I'll go on down the line of all the guys in the AFC that you're going to maybe potentially see if you're the Patriots. Like you have to have guys on the interior that can pass block. You just do. And I think Wyatt Milam's going to be a really good one. Like he's a power-oriented player. His game definitely fits a lot better in a phone booth. But he's going to play really well at guard in the league, and he's going to have a little bit of tackle feet and tackle, experience of blocking people that I think is going to help him a lot in pass protection. I don't have any doubts that guys like Zabel and Milam are going to follow in the footsteps of, Tooney and Sheriff and Martin and all those guys that transitioned inside from being college left tackles. I think all those guys are going to check those boxes if you want to throw, Donovan Jackson.
So that was going to be
too.
my guy. Again, if they're going to do the tackle guard, boom, boom at the top, Donovan Jackson I like.
Yeah.
My day 2 center is obviously Jared Wilson. I've been very high on him. Limited sample size, but smart player, athletic player. Little similar to David Andrews. Now, David Andrews obviously didn't get drafted, but maybe the league learned something in the last 8 years.
A little bit bigger, but
It's a little bit bigger, but he's still undersized, air quotes, as center. And the other guy I got to mention here on day 2, Marcus Mabeau, who got hosed by the combine, going from 33 and an 1/8 inch arms all the way down to 32. He is a tackle, but he'll probably move. He's played both at Purdue. He can probably play there.
Right tackle guard flex.
Right tackle guard, yeah.
Yeah, he
wouldn't be a bad pick for the Patriots.
He's got some of the most bizarre hand fighting I've ever seen. Like he's like literally like the Karate Kid, but it works. Like he gets it done. But like he's like wax on, wax off. Like most times you want those stiff hands, like inside hands. This guy's like doing all sorts of like Mr. Miyagi stuff, and it somehow gets the job done. It's fun to watch. Like it's a little different. Like when you're going through all these tackles, and you get to him, and you're like, oh, this is cool. This is a little fun.
33 inch arms. Don't forget it.
All right, day 3. Big Dylan Fairchild guy from Georgia,
Okay.
a pure left guard, right? He
Yes.
played left guard at Georgia. I think he's going to play left guard in the NFL. Super high upside, high school wrestler, like all-world high school wrestler, and you can see that. He knows how to grapple. He knows how to leverage. He knows how to win with body positioning and get underneath guys. Very versatile blocker, just in terms of all the different things you can ask him to do.
Yeah.
He can zone block. He can gap block. He can double team. He can pull. He can get up to the second level. He's really versatile in that way. even though he's not positional flex necessarily, he's versatile within the scheme, which I think is really important. High level mover, high level pass protector. He just screams Josh McDaniels guard to me. Like, I just feel like that when they look at left guard specifically, like Tooney's obviously like the pinnacle of what they want in a left guard, but I think that Fairchild's kind of in that same mold, and I like him a lot. And then obviously, you got to mention Drew Kendall. You got to talk about him a little bit.
There's a lot of good day 3 centers. Drew Kendall, Jake Majors is a very Josh McDaniels sort of center, very cerebral player. Seth McLaughlin would be really interesting coming off that injury. The guy I'll mention though, center guard, is Clay Webb from Jacksonville State. So he was a 5-star recruit, I believe. He's like a high-ranked recruit, went to Georgia for a couple years, wasn't playing, and as a center. He was recruited highly as a center, transferred to Jacksonville State, moved to guard, played it well, went to the Senior Bowl, played it well. A lot of people think he's going to move back to center in the NFL. I'm certainly not ruling that out. I just wouldn't sleep on him as a guard either. Little undersized, but kind of fits more for that McDaniels thing. And he's projected to go late. So that could be kind of like we talked about Denzel Burke, another one of these guys that, all right, now, I think he played at a higher level than Burke. He's just at a less valuable position. That's why he's lower. But it's like, all right, he was highly touted out of high school. Why didn't it work out in college? And is it something we can work around and get him back to being the player he was projected to be?
Fair enough. All right, so that's my guys. There's a lot of them in there, but I think those are the guys on offense, and next week we'll do defense. Let's wrap up the show, get back to the phones, and then we have a ton of emails, so we'll try to go through those as fast as we can as well. But Eldred, our good friend, is in North Carolina. What's up, Eldred?
Hey, fellas. How y'all doing? Hey, I'm about the receivers. I'm glad y'all talked about my guy, Dante Thornton.
Yep.
And Evan, you're right. He got those 3 routes, but he beats man press. On his weakness is to stay still over the top. But my question is, we ain't never developed a receiver no matter what coaching tree we have. Do you think they can develop one this year?
I mean, I'll believe it. It's kind of one of those things where, like, I got to see it, right?
Yeah.
I got to see it. Todd Downing's background is in quarterbacks, and he kind of talked about this last week, that, like, he'll have them ready and knowing the playbook and all of that. But when it comes to the footwork and the technique, that's where we're going to see what they can do with some of these guys. And that's where I think you hope maybe Stephon Diggs helps out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my other thing is they're hosting that cornerback I talked about last time. He's supposed to be coming to New England, I think today or tomorrow. Got his name, but he's 6'2", run that 4.3, 40, and I think he projected to go in the 3rd or the 4th round. And I think he's meeting with us today.
Who was that?
Allie from I forgot. I think his last name is Thornton too, but he's but that girl Allie from Chat Sport. She mentioned yesterday that he's supposed to be meeting today with the Patriots. He got a 30 visit, but he's going to lay in the round though.
Corey Thornton.
But there you go, Corey Thornton.
Okay.
There you go. I couldn't think of his name, but his background coach is the one that did Travis Ward and and he got good corners and a good corner coach. But they say they're sleeping on him, and I hope we don't sleep on him. But he's outside corner, and I'll let y'all go at that. I hear you on the line. Thank you.
Thanks, Eldred.
Right.
Thanks for the call, as always. And yeah, Eldred, Alex was first to Kyle Williams. Eldred was first to Dante Thornton.
Yeah.
He's been on Dante Thornton for a while, so props, Eldred. You nailed that one. Well, we'll see if he's a good football player in the NFL, but you nailed the draft stock going up. Do you know anything about
I don't know a
Thornton?
ton about Corey Thornton.
Yeah. All right. Alex is in D.C. What's up, Alex?
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Thanks for taking the call.
No problem.
So yesterday, Bedard said on his podcast, citing a scouting report by Bob McGinn of The Athletic, that Abdul Carter has some character concerns, that he's a bit of an a-hole, high maintenance, isn't a hard worker. Have you heard anything about this? Do you have any concerns around Carter? And do you give any weight to what McGinn says, since he's the same guy that said Barmore had character concerns?
Thanks for the call, Alex. Yeah, we actually talked about this exact thing at the top of the show, so I don't want to go too long on it, but you can go back and listen to some of that. We talked in depth about it. I don't have much more to add to that. So
No, I just say go back to the top of the show.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get into some of these emails. We have a ton of them. I am a little disappointed in the listeners, though, and I'll get to that here in a second.
Stop being mean to the listeners.
No, I'm not being mean to them. I'm just a little disappointed that there's no emails about our I'll get to it in a second.
Okay.
But just a couple of questions just sort of about the tackles. And I think one of the things that's going around right now is just like how confident are we that, a Connerly or an Ursery or even a Simmons is going to be there for them at 38.
Not.
I'm
not confident.
Is there a risk there? And I think the answer
yes.
is there's always a risk that just like last year, they're not able to orchestrate a trade up.
They missed the run.
And they missed the run.
Yeah. And I think we're going to see a similar run this year because there's still that shortage of tackles and that shortage of linemen. No, I'm not maybe one of them gets there. You're certainly not going to have your choice. Yeah. Maybe one of them gets there. And honestly, if Simmons is the one that falls, and they'll know it internally, but like externally, I worry that the medicals aren't good.
Yeah.
If Simmons is the only one that falls, I look at that and say his knee's not in great shape.
Yeah.
So I'm not confident that they're going to get one of those guys at 38. If it's not Campbell or Membu or Banks at the top of the draft, they have to be moving up. They have to be moving up.
Yeah, and look, like we say all the time with trades, and I've been kind of pounding the table about how hard it might be to trade back in this draft from 4. It takes 2 to tango with a trade.
Well,
you
but
can't
the thing
force a team to trade out with you, right?
You should be able to trade up because everybody wants to trade down. This is what we're talking about at Ford. Nobody wants to trade up. Everybody wants to trade down. Well, if you're trying to trade up, you should be in good shape.
This is a good question from Ashton in Canada. He writes in about Jaden Higgins and Tet McMillan. This is something that we've talked about a little bit, that like Tet McMillan is kind of day 1 and Jaden Higgins is sort of the early day 2 X in this draft. Yeah. And he was just asking, if we felt like there's a chance that Jaden Higgins is a better pro than Tet McMillan, and like kind of what are the, who is better at what in certain areas. I think the biggest thing to me with that maybe separates McMillan a little bit is the yards after the catch.
Yeah.
Like I don't necessarily see that speed or that ability and that fluidity after the catch that McMillan has out of Higgins, and I think that might elevate his ceiling. But in terms of what they do in their routes, in the way that they play, in the way that they win, the fact that both of them are probably going to have to play a little bit in the slot to get some vertical stretch out of them, I think they play very similarly. I think they're kind of comparable in a lot of ways. I just would give Tet the edge just because of the yards after the catch ability.
I think his ball skills are also a little bit better. I mean, they're both good in that regard, but that's why Tet's projected to go as high as he is. He's got unbelievable ball skills.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, you want to play a quick would you rather game?
Oh, boy, here we go. Yep.
1, have the Patriots trade back the 4th pick to trade back up in the or trade back up in the first round. So would you rather trade back from 4 or trade up from 38?
Up from 38.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm up from 38 as well. Have Jihad Campbell or Walter Nolan fall to 38?
Oh, Jihad Campbell.
Yeah, Jihad Campbell.
That's not even close.
Yeah, Walter Nolan.
And I like Walter Nolan, but Jihad Campbell in Vrabel's defense would be unbelievable.
They have the 3 technique. They have Milton Williams.
Yeah, that's part of it.
I don't think they need another.
I feel like that was
technique.
Disrespectful to Walter Nolan the way I reacted. But I like Walter Nolan, but Jihad Campbell is so freaking good.
I didn't spend a ton of time on Walter Nolan just because of where he's going to go and the fact that the Patriots signed Milton Williams.
You'll see him plenty when he's in Buffalo.
I thought he was a little streaky. It's a little hot and cold on the tape for me personally. There's moments where you're like, wow, there it is. But then there's stretches of games where he kind of just was there, and just kind of running into the line of scrimmage.
You want my defensive tackle take?
Yeah.
Kenneth Grant's the second best defensive tackle in this draft. And I think Kenneth Grant, projected first round pick, I still think people are sleeping on him.
Good athlete.
330 pounds.
Jalen Walker or Mason Graham at 4? I'm going Jalen Walker.
Walker.
Yeah, Jalen Walker, more versatile.
Better player, fits a need better.
Yeah.
Jalen Walker.
Have Gray Zabel or Amarian Hampton fall to 38?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I'm going Hampton.
Yeah, I'm siding with the quarterback on this one. You can get a guard later on. I'm going Hampton.
It's a little bit more value. Even at running back.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going Hampton. That's a close one, though.
Yeah.
I could be. There's an argument for Zabel. That's a good question.
Okay, so this is more open-ended, but
okay.
What player with a first-round grade are you predicting to fall?
What player with a first-round grade? I gotta pull up the list real quick. Hang on.
I don't know if
So I thought of something similar. Say what you're gonna say. Then I thought of something similar to this.
I don't know if everybody's gonna technically feel that he's a first-round grade kind of guy, but Luther Burden falling out of the first round.
Luther Burden would be one.
Very likely.
Mike Green would be another.
Yeah.
So what I was thinking is kind of, I'll say I had Mike Green at like 28, I think, in my last mock. So I'll say Mason Graham's still going to go in the first, but every mock right now has him like 6 as his floor. I think you could get down to like 9 or 10.
Yeah.
That wouldn't surprise me. Here's what I was going to say. I was thinking about this week. I was going to write something about it later on, but I'll test it here. What is this year's Michael Penix pick? And what I mean by that is, what is the pick that nobody is talking about that happens in the first round?
That's a good one. I'd have to think about that. I mean, I had the Travion Henderson thing earlier. Like, I feel like that could happen.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's like quite on Michael Penix level. It's more Jahmyr Gibbs, right? Like,
but just completely out of nowhere.
I think Milroe in the first round would be kind of a stunner. Now he's invited to the draft, so obviously there's some buzz that he might go in the first round. But that, to me, I think would be a little bit of a stunner. Like where he was at the end of the college football season, like he's made that much ground up, in the pre-draft process, and now all of a sudden he goes in the first round. I'd be pretty stunned about that.
Yeah, so I was going to say like Milroe going like top 20.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a trade up, but
yeah.
The other one I had, and I put this in my last mock. I don't think I'm alone in this. I've seen a couple other people do it, but like Matthew Golden of the Steelers.
Yeah.
So he plays the inside with Pickens and Metcalf on the outside, and then Pickens on an expiring contract. This take is under the assumption that they finally signed Rodgers, but like it's a lot at wide receiver in one offseason, but
all right,
it was a fun one to think
Speaking
about.
of receivers, then I have my little thing I want to get to here at the end. Will writes in and mentions that there just haven't been a ton of buzz about Patriots 30 visits with wide receivers specifically. I think Jalen Noel
It's Noel. I got that wrong earlier.
I think he's maybe been reported now that he's come in.
Well, he posted himself in the building.
Oh, right. But we haven't seen Golden, Burden, McMillan, and Will just asked, like, do they always draft based off the 30 visits? No, definitely not.
Well, pretty rare, actually.
Yeah.
I think all visits, 30, Combine, Senior Bowl, what was it last year? They, like, 4 of their picks.
Yeah.
The year before that, I think it was 2.
It's a low percentage. There's a lot of information gathering that goes on at these types of things that isn't anything beyond just doing your due diligence on players. Yeah. I'd also mention with the 30 visits, you're just getting what's leaked, so you don't know.
Right.
We don't know all 30 guys.
Tyquan Thornton was one. We didn't know until after the draft that he met with them.
I remember also, Christian Gonzalez. Like, they sent, at the time, Gerard Mayo out to, personally spend, like, a weekend with Christian Gonzalez in Oregon before the draft, and nobody knew about it. Nobody knew about it till afterwards. So I would just caution that, don't overreact to the 30 visits.
Yeah.
All right, last thing here. You and I got put on blast a little bit on social media.
Are we really going to do this? Like,
we got put on blast a little bit. I think we should do it. We got put on blast a little bit because it was a Class A felony that you and I said that we would not take a trade down with the Saints going from 4 for 9 and 40, and we both said we wouldn't do it. It doesn't feel like enough to me. It still doesn't feel like enough to me. But my main takeaway with this is one, like it kind of caused a little bit of a stir for no reason over like a take on a
content
on a podcast. Like, let's calm down.
We're creating content.
Second of all, if the Saints are going to trade up with the Patriots, which is becoming a popular take,
which is banks on the idea that they want Sanders.
Yeah, which banked on the idea that they want Sanders.
Sure.
Then that means that the 4th overall pick is going to be Shedeur Sanders. So you are now selling the 4th overall pick for a quarterback, which in my opinion changes the value of the trade.
Yes.
Right?
Not your opinion. That's generally how it's done.
Yeah. So if it's Shedeur Sanders going at 4, and that's who's going to go at 4, that means if the Raiders want Shedeur Sanders, if the Saints want Shedeur Sanders, if the Steelers want Shedeur Sanders,
the Browns,
if any of these teams want Shedeur Sanders, then they need to get up to pick 4 to get Shedeur Sanders, which just inherently will increase the market.
There's a quarterback tax.
It's a quarterback tax. And so when I heard that trade proposal, it didn't feel like enough. And I still don't feel like it feels like enough. I want to trade down if you can. If Carter and Hunter aren't there, I would trade down. But I'm not trading down just to trade down. It's got to
be worthwhile.
It's got to be worthwhile. And just the last thing I'll say on it, I would be pretty disappointed if the Patriots came out of this draft without one of
Yeah.
Carter, Hunter,
Yeah.
Campbell, or Membu.
I'll put Jalen Walker in there.
I feel like all four of those guys, to me, I want one of those four guys in the first round. Now, if you can still get that guy by trading down, then I get that there's a ton of value in doing that.
I'm not super confident that all four of those guys make it to 9. I'll put Walker in there, but like I think for the grading it as a whole, they're all similar. But for the Patriots specifically, Ted McMillan, Mason Graham, Tyler Warren, those guys are a step back. So, and I think that's just what it comes down to. Like, and some people put it in the replies to that video, like, I'm just a little less confident in some of those guys falling. And it doesn't mean I wouldn't do it. You just have to make it worth the while. Like, Borish, friend of the show, put in, like, he had another trade, and I think the Patriots were giving up like a 5th or 6th or something, but another top 100. Okay, if I'm getting 3 top 100 picks back, I'm more interested. What I would really like to see if they were going to make that trade, so we'll use the same basis, 4 for 9 and 40.
Yeah.
If I'm the Patriots, the first thing I'm asking for on top of that is a future top 100 pick. Ideally second. You're not going to get a first. You're just not.
Yeah.
Can you get a future second? I might even take a future third, because the idea is, all right, I'm moving down this year. Give me the ammunition to move back up next year in a better draft. I think I've talked about it a little bit on this show. I've talked about it on other shows. The mathematics of the future picks and trades in this draft specifically is going to be fascinating. They're going to be worth less, or they're going to be worth more in this draft, because our team's going to be willing to borrow from future better drafts to improve their standing in this one. So, and on the flip side, they're more valuable to acquire. So if I'm the Patriots not moving back, I want a future pick. I want a future pick. So, okay, I'm going to move back this year. Next year, when it's a better class, I want more top 100 ammunition so I can move back up the board.
Yeah, I would just be really careful. This is a draft, to me, with the Patriots. They have to nail their first round pick. They have to nail
any draft, but yeah.
But this is a big draft for them. It's a big draft, and they have to nail that pick. I wouldn't get cute with it. And
I'm with you on that.
And all of a sudden, when you start trading down, I'm not saying don't trade down. If the trade down is there and it's the value is there for the pick, but we're not trading down.
I got to be blown away a little bit.
You don't trade down just to trade down, because you're going to put yourself into a position in a weaker top of the draft that you might not nail the pick.
If you believe in a guy, take him. If it's like, well, I feel more comfortable at 9 than 4, then you don't really believe in the player. Right?
Yeah, I just
and if you don't believe in any of the players truly, which you might not in this draft, and that's Hunter and Carter off the board, obviously, then just by default, you have to believe in one more than the rest. So just that's the guy.
I keep coming back to the same thing with them. You have to be careful about the fact that this is you got to be able to get on base with this pick.
Yeah.
And I'm not jonesing to just give away the pick.
No. And
that's
look,
it.
To be fair, in 2023, they knew the board. They knew they could move down 3 spots and still get Christian Gonzalez, and we gave them a ton of praise for that.
Yep.
If you read the board and this is including teams that might trade up, and like Miami's lurking there at 13. They're a trade-up team for a tackle. They worry me. The Bears are a trade-up team for an offensive lineman, certainly. The Colts might be too. Like, if all right, one of these guys is going to get to 9, if you read the board, go for it. I just don't feel super confident that, again, that group, if Carter and Hunter are there, you're not trading, so they're irrelevant.
Yeah.
Campbell, Membu, and Walker. I'll put Walker in the group. I know you didn't, I will. And maybe you're okay ending up with Kelvin Banks, I guess, but if you're not super confident in those guys falling, you get nervous about a trade like that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so that does it for today. We'll be back next week. We're going to do my guys on defense. We'll try to get to more of the phones and the calls and the emails and stuff. I know you guys emailed in a ton, and we didn't get to a ton of them today, so I apologize for that. But before we sign off, confidence is important to have when you're on the road. With Bridgestone tires, your car, truck, SUV, or minivan, you're riding on tires you can trust. Bridgestone tires are engineered to give you peace of mind so you can focus on enjoying the journey. So whether you're on your morning commute, a cross-country road trip, or a relaxing Sunday drive, Bridgestone tires will be with you wherever life's road may lead. Bridgestone, solutions for your journey, available now at Sullivan Tire. And Patriots Catch-22 is sponsored by Massachusetts 250 campaign, commemorating a history of possibility. Plan your revolutionary weekend at Massachusetts250.org. All right, 2 weeks out. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.